Yeah, high tech,
Fancy.
fancy. They put so many switches, I don't know what to touch anymore.
All right. Welcome. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting Thursday, August 20th, 2015, at Littleton Town Offices, room 307, Shattuck Street, Littleton. The administrative matters for 7:15. We're opening at 7:25. There are no minutes to review, or accounts payable or correspondence. The first case is scheduled for 7:25 p.m. It is now 7:25 p.m. The involving the case number 856A, petitioner Lori Crockett on behalf of owners John and Emily Clark, request for a special permit/variance pursuant to section 173-31, intensity of use schedule, side setback, and section 173-10B, parentheses 1, non-conforming use and structures for proposed stairway at the entry of the dwelling at 9 Westchester Drive. All right, for this, all right, we have just two of our regular members. Need to appoint all right. Alan, okay?
Yep.
Rod and Mark. All right. The way the proceedings run is that the petitioner, applicant, will present their case. There will be comments or questions from the board. And after that, if any town officials are present, if not, then we'll go to any abutters or anyone in the audience who wish to ask questions or make comments in regards to this particular petition. Right? If you want to be recognized to speak, to be recognized by the board. That way we keep it so we only have one person talking at a time. Doesn't get confusing for whoever's listening or following this case. One thing I do want to point out right away, and I already talked to Laurie Crockett about this ahead of time. I've also had a discussion with the building inspector, Roland Bernier, earlier today in regards to this. In the application, there is a statement from Laurie Crockett that says the existing setback of the stairs is 15.2 feet side setback. The plot plan that was given to us, the existing plot plan, but dated May 19, 2004, shows the existing setback at 13.2. There was a discrepancy, and I've mentioned it to Laurie Crockett, to explain that, because it makes a difference whether it's a variance or whether it's a special permit. All right, Laurie?
Thank you. I'm Lori Crockett. I'm an architect, and I'm working with John and Emily Clark on their house at 9 Westchester Drive. So first I'll start by clarifying the site plan. I went to see the building inspector, Roland, and showed him this site plan which we had, and he agreed that we could use this site plan. It was done in 2004. In 2004, you were allowed to encroach on the setback with steps, okay? That's when this plan was done. And since this plan was done, the steps that reflect the 13.2 were torn down and 3-foot wide steps were installed. So the present setback to the existing steps that are in the house now is 15.2 feet. And excuse me for that. So, any questions on that part? You know,
When was that done?
2004.
Okay, so 2000.
After they purchased, when they purchased the house in what year?
2009.
2009, the stairs that are on there now were on it. And they're only 3 feet wide.
So it was done after this May 19th date.
Of the plan, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
so that, in 2004, 11 years ago, the steps were 5 feet wide. They were torn down, and when the Clarks purchased the house in 2009, those steps were not there anymore. It's the 3-foot step.
Okay.
And you have a photograph, and I also can just, not to belabor the point, but I have shown their house from the side, and it
Yeah.
is a 3-foot step, and I apologize.
Yeah, I drove by and it's definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looks 3 feet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why the
And
confusion on
I
this.
apologize for that. So you can see the existing step there. It's not the 5-foot that was existing in 2004.
Okay.
So if you have any questions after I do it, any more questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I'll just go through quickly what I prepared. We are requesting relief from section 173.31, the intensity of use schedule. The lot is presently non-conforming as it is 20,000 square feet. The existing setbacks and frontage requirements are in compliance with the zoning bylaws. The location of the house on the lot is 18.2 feet from the right side and 141.7 feet from the left side. The location is due to setbacks and wetlands and septic system. This indicates the wetlands, this indicates the buffer zone, and this is a septic system, and hence the house was located when it was built in 2004 over on this side of the site. Due to the architectural layout, the only entrance to the living area is on the right side of the house. So this is the right side of the house, here is Westchester Street. The only entrance is here. Here are garage doors, the only entrance to the house is on the side, not on the front that faces the street. The existing stairs that go up to the main living area are 3 feet wide and are in pretty dire need of replacement. As they are presently built, it is difficult for the Clarks to maneuver the stairs, particularly in the winter, and they have 2 young children, so they're pretty deficient. The present configuration of stairs prevents the family from adequately and safely using the main entrance to their house. We are proposing a new stair and a canopy that will not only be more user-friendly, but we hope more aesthetically pleasing and will look and function as a main entrance to the house. So, again, the entrance coming up with new stairs, and this is a side view of the house. So the stairs come up, they taper up with some landings, and landscaping is important to kind of tailor this down to the site, and then their entrance will be accentuated with a little canopy to protect them from the weather. We feel that a hardship is created by the presence of the wetlands and the placement of the septic system on the site, which pushes the house over to the right part of the lot. We think the proposed design will not be detrimental to the character of the street, and in fact will be attractive and a non-imposing feature. Thank you.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
The floor plans and stair elevations that we have received in the packet, and I just checked the folder, that these are the full size. There is no date or who drawn by on these.
Okay.
Would you please, just for the record, indicate a date on these so that we can refer to them by date?
You bet.
And if you would initial,
You bet.
those are the official ones.
You want today's date, sir?
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Because in the decision, there would be reference, all plans are referenced by
Date.
title, plan, address, and date. And also to put the date, address on there, please.
Yes.
I don't want to be adding to your drawings
No problem.
in initial, if you would.
Yes.
Are you using today's date?
Yes, sir. Do you want me to do these two, huh?
No, that's the septic pan. Well, they're just these two. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, we do have a statement from the building inspector. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, you can have a seat. Section 15, from the building inspector, zoning officer, Roland Bernier, dated August 17, 2015. Please accept the attachment documents, papers, and comments constituting the record of the case in which the above noted appeal is being taken. 9 Westchester Drive. The applicant seeks a variance to allow reduced setback from the side lot line. The required setback is 15 feet. The existing single-family dwelling was constructed in 2004 with a platform and a stair at 13.2 feet from the side lot line and was approved by this office. At the time of the approval, the Littleton zoning bylaw allows certain encroachments by reference. Number 1, which is attached, which is the definition of setback, to the 6th edition building code, which was in effect at the time of the construction, allowing such encroachments to include, in quotes, exterior stairs and fire escapes, unquote, and permitted to, quote, project not more than 4 feet beyond the face of the wall, unquote. The note number 2, which is attachment A, and attachment A is a print from the 780 CMR 6th edition of the Massachusetts State Building Code. The current 8th edition building code has changed significantly in that it no longer allows this sort of encroachment. Thus, the bylaw exemption noted in the zoning bylaw no longer exists, making the existing stair and platform legally pre-existing non-conforming. The applicant wishes to increase the size of the platform and construct additional platforms, effectively encroaching 5 feet 8 inches off the face of the structure, decreasing the existing setback from 13.2 feet to 12.2 feet. The noted bench on the plans further encroaches into the required setback. And the question was, is this a permanent structure? No further comments. So in regards to Roland's question about the bench, is this going to be a...
No, I'm sorry. It was just, no, it is not a permanent bench, sir.
Okay. All right. The attachments that Roland had placed in here, and in my conversation with him earlier today for clarification, setbacks is basically out of the zoning bylaw, saying what the setback is from the property line to any point. He then went further and explained that in 2004, we were under the 6th edition state building code, which had another exemption that says that stairs are allowed to encroach not more than 4 feet into that area. So that's why, you know, that he made a comment on here that the applicant seeks a variance. Laurie, as you had said before, that it was originally at 5-foot stairway or 13.2 feet, was torn down, changed to a 3-foot stairway, which the photos show, making it 13.2, clarifying the point that yes, it is a variance and not a special permit. Any comments or questions from the board?
How
Yeah.
deep is the canopy?
I would say about 4 feet.
Okay, so we need to reference, do we need to reference that? Or
What?
the canopy is going to extend into the setback? So it's not just the deck we're giving and the steps, but also the canopy.
Is the roof canopy further out than the actual deck?
No.
So
But
it's
but
in line with it?
It's 4 feet from the structure, 4 feet out from the structure. Or does it matter, I guess?
But this is what the variance request is for the edge of the deck and the edge of the, yes.
Okay, okay.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, I went by the site, you definitely need this, so.
Alan?
I'm just looking at the floor plan here. Is there a constructed patio here, or is this just like at grade, or there's this whole area here that?
This is grade and grass area. This will be a walkway for them, so
Yeah.
that they, you know, from the driveway. Right now, they have a few stepping stones here to the thing. We want to just give a little more interest to it. So I have to find it with from brick pavers or something. It'll be based on, you know.
But it's at grade, there's no like
Oh,
raised.
no, there's no
Okay, I
rising
just
of
wanted to
any of
clarify.
this, sir, no. It starts one step up here, yeah, and then we use the platforms to break it up a little bit, and some planters, and just to give it a little bit of interest, and the opportunity to landscape around it, because that's gonna be important, to kind of soften it and complement.
Thank you.
Right? Patrick, any comments or questions?
No.
Mark?
No, I drove by it also yesterday, and yeah, whoever built those stairs, don't have them build a new one, 'cause
No,
they should
no,
last
right?
longer. Yeah, you're on the third set of stairs, and the house is, what, 10 years
Yeah,
old?
right,
It's
yeah,
like,
they're a little marginal, in the condition of them, but still some of the look.
Yeah. No, they do look pretty narrow. Now, you can, I mean, you could enter the house from the other side, the fenced-in side. I mean,
Through a
it looked like there was
slider
a slide
in
in
the
there, yeah.
family room, yes,
It's
but
not-
there's no entrance on the fence that was
Yeah.
there. It's a little of a unique thing, that the whole thing that faces the street is two garage doors. And the house is actually sweet with the windows and all, but the entrance really is on the side.
Well, all those lots in there, they're all from the
Old, yeah.
old, you know, you bought as many of those 20-foot wide lots as you wanted, and you built a house
Yeah,
on it.
that's it.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Cheryl? Comments, questions?
No. I drove by, I think you need this also.
Hey, Lori, also on the proposed plot plan, that's dated May 19th, 2004.
Yes.
And that says 12.2.
I know, because, yes, I did this. Roland had said to me, because it's a relatively, it's not a huge project.
Right.
He thought it was fair they didn't need to incur the cost of doing another, he was satisfied with this. So I should have redated that.
Well, you can't really read
redate
it, you cannot
Oh, well,
redate somebody
okay,
else's
yeah.
drawing. Okay, so that's what we're going by, and actually
Roland
this,
said it's good enough, that's probably good enough for us.
all right, so I just want to make sure that this is the schematic, no updated.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any butters? Anybody else with comments, questions? And you are the,
That's nice.
you are the owners?
Yes, this is Emily.
Okay. Right, you've been very quiet through. Okay. Hearing no
Close the
further
hearing.
discussion, do I hear a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second.
No further discussion? All those in favor of closing the hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We will make our decision within the allotted time period, most likely the end of the night. Being a variance that, you may understand that once the decision gets filed with the town clerk, there's a 20-day appeal period, and after 20 days, no appeal, then, the permit can be issued. In the meantime, you can work with the building department to get a building permit application in. It's just the building inspector cannot issue the permit until such time the certificate of no appeals for the 20 days is up.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you for your time.
All right.
and your attention.
And thank you for the clarification on
Can I
that.
interrupt for a second? Can I interrupt for a second?
In regards to,
Another matter.
oh,
If this one's closed, are we closed?
Am I not- did you want to?
no, doesn't matter, and we're on air. Okay.
I understand that.
Okay,
Well, we're gonna vote to approve or deny after the meeting.
Yes.
Not further
Yes.
discussion. Okay,
Yes.
so it's not approved or denied.
Before you
at this
move on
point.
to the
Yeah.
next case,
yeah.
Bill.
Okay.
Downstairs.
You're all set.
Oh, thank you.
At this moment downstairs, the planning board is discussing one of our 40Bs. Does Jeff need to leave the room if we talk about
I
Kimball?
don't think they're discussing a 40B, they're discussing,
They're discussing Mike Kimball's 40B that we acted on at the last meeting. I'd like permission from this board to go down and answer questions and do background on this issue.
Is,
I think we have a quorum without me, yes?
yes?
Do I have permission from
Sherry?
this board to
Well,
do that?
you don't need permission.
Yeah, I
You-
do.
You're not representing the board because, you're going to represent as an individual.
I would like to represent the board on historical matters.
I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to take a vote on that or anything else. If you want to go down and speak as a member or as a citizen, that's up to you. I mean, without a long discussion and knowing all the facts and
Actually,
everything
Bill,
else,
I think
don't-
I can ask for a decision from this board and a vote from this board.
I don't think you should
I'm
represent the board
chairperson.
either.
I don't want to represent the board, I just want to
Okay.
go down and answer questions.
You can go down and answer questions and everything else. But, no, not as representing the comments or the decision of this board.
Or the
Yeah.
history of this board.
And that does not need a vote from this board. If you want to go, then that's your choice.
Well, then we'll have to let it go as it is. But there, I would make you aware there are misrepresentations and misunderstandings being
I
bantered about down
I
there.
believe Sherry is down there.
And she cannot speak to it at all,
Okay.
legally.
Okay, second case. It is now at or past the hour of 7:40. It is now 7:45. I'm opening the case of 857A, Mary Lou Rosati. Correct? Okay. And Dwight Long requests a special permit variance pursuant to section 173-31, intensity of use schedule, side and rear setback for a proposed stone retaining wall and pool shed as part of a landscape renovation accessibility improvement project at 363 King Street. And bear with me for 1 minute. The regular voting members are myself, Mr. Yates, and Cheryl Hollinger. Patrick, would you be voting on this? And Alan?
Okay.
Just trying to spread it around because we have 4 alternates and so we always rotate as to who's going to be voting. As I said earlier, for those who weren't here, the way the hearing is going to be run, we'll have the presentation from the presenters. At that point, there will be comments and questions from the board. After that, I'll accept comments and questions from town staff, then to abutters, and then anyone else in the audience. Anyone wishing to be heard is to be recognized through the chair. That way, we have one conversation going at a time, and everybody can hear what the conversations are. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Suzanne McDonough. I'm the landscape architect for the Long family. What we're looking for is, as he stated, a variance for a granite block, antique granite block wall, retaining wall, over 4 feet. And on top of that would be the second variance would be a pool house at the end of the pool. I think you all have the plan to look at. This is a color rendered drawing of it, if it's easier to read for anybody. I can bring it around. The wall is here. There's the corner here. The grade actually dips down in this direction, so that's why we have to hold that grade right there. We're putting in a new pool. There was an old existing pool that has been taken out. And this is where the pool house is, right here. And the property lines are right there. The property is basically 3 tiers, this level, then it comes down to this level here, and then to this level. And one of the reasons for the project is to make this property more accessible. These folks have done a lot of work in renovating this house over the years, and they want to age in place. And Mary Lou now has MS, and accessibility is becoming more of a critical element. So in order to get to the lower level, we've accommodated that with ramps, an elevator in the future. We've minimized the number of steps to get to the pool now. We're putting in the handrails and whatever. But the only way to accommodate access to that lowest level is to bring the grade up, and we need to do that by bringing in that retaining wall. Anything to add to that?
No, it's essentially it. It's a very difficult project. It drops significantly from the driveway down to the existing area where the pool was, which is
Right.
actually a little bit closer to the property line from where the new pool is proposed. And when we met with Roland from the building department, he said, the issue is your wall's over 4 feet, there's a bylaw about that. You need to go in front of the board and ask for a variance. So
That's a very important part, that retaining walls with an elevation change from top to bottom at 4 feet or more become structures
Right.
under the State Building Code and also reflected on our zoning bylaw. So, and it does show on your plan, as well as the plan that we were given, that there are lengths of this wall that are greater than 4-foot elevation
yes.
change.
Do you have a top of wall for the, is there a typical top of wall at the pool end of the wall?
Over here,
Well, no, at the, yeah,
right over there.
Yeah.
That's the highest section of the wall.
yeah,
That's
92.
92.
92. So you have some, so it goes down to, so it's gonna be like 10 feet at the corner? Okay,
Yeah, probably.
Is there
There's an
any-
existing wall there, a
Another thing,
little wall
please.
that's.
okay.
Is there any
Yep.
space on the other side of the wall? Is it the wall right against the property line,
It's about a foot back.
about a foot inside?
Yes. We did have it all surveyed by Stamsky McNeary and have them do an as-built in existing condition. There is a wall there now that's falling down, and the slope is eroding down in the wetland. So there was a clear issue that we had to deal with, so we did go to conservation, approach them about this design. They granted us a permit to work in the wetland area and build this project. It was later that we found out about the bylaw on the wall, so that's why we're here.
One of the issues that this town, this board deals with a lot is ability to maintain your property without going on other people's property. A foot seems very narrow.
All right, hold on one minute.
Yeah.
Are you done with your presentation?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Unless there's something
Okay,
else we want to.
you outlined the project. Have you covered that, the hardship, or in why you could not make changes to make it more compatible to the zoning bylaw?
As I mentioned, Mary Lou has MS now.
Yep.
And it's very hard for her to get around to the different levels of their property. They've been in this house for 27 years.
Yep.
Dwight has renovated the whole thing himself. And the whole idea was to bring the grades up so that we can minimize. What really dictated what we could do is how we could get a ramp in, an
Yep.
ADA ramp, and we were able to do that down here. That kind of dictates the grades. And that's kind of how we came up with the grade we ended up with, was so that we could accommodate her getting down there when she gets further along in her illness. So to us, that's really the driving force for the project, but also the hardship.
And have you looked at other alternatives to lessen the effect, or is this the lesser of all other options that were available?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is really, we looked at lengths of these runs on the walk, so we maxed them at 8% with a handrail.
Yeah.
And it's 8% for all of this walk, and 5% until you get to here. We did look at putting the pool over here on this corner of the property, but again, it's not long enough to make the transition. We'd have to have a number of switchback pathways, and it would be extremely difficult to build and costly as well.
These are standard questions in regards to a variance
Right.
based on state zoning act and the local bylaw to make sure that you have looked at other alternatives and that this is what you came to as a minimum encroachment of the bylaw and to actually meet the needs, not necessarily the wants of the applicant. Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, if we're going to talk about the pool house.
Yep,
the
let's
pool
talk about-
house, One of the things when we were looking at where the pool might go, where the pool house might go, the needs for the pool for exercise and whatever, and recreation, we brought into the consideration the children that are going to be on this property, the grandchildren that are going to be on this property, and being able to observe the kids at any given time from anywhere in here. And if you move, that seems to be the logical place to put the pool house because no one can get behind it. You can see all around it, so you aren't going to ever be losing your children in this space. So that's how we ended up in that configuration.
Anything else?
I think that's.
I think also, the shaded area that.
Oh, that's right.
So there's Mary Lou with MS, and I'm not familiar, but also they tend to heat up quickly in the sun, so we're trying to provide an area that she could escape to, still remaining visible and still conversing with her family back and forth. We could do this as a solitary structure that is separated from the shed. It's also still a structure that would be adjacent to the property line, but I think it would skirt the bylaw setback, but we were trying to incorporate that with the shed for look as well, so that it just makes sense, so she could sit here underneath this and be able to still see everybody. This is intended, this right now is play lawn, the pool is generally right where it is. The only modification is that the grades are coming up on the entire area and a new pool is going in about this.
Sure.
size.
Okay, so again, going back to my issue with maintaining your wall and maintaining your property without having to go on to other people's property. If this pool house, for example, was 8 by 16, and if these walls were to move in, I mean, you've left room for a table and lounge chairs and everything. If these walls were to move in, say, 2 feet, which then would give you a 3-foot buffer between your neighbor's property and your property, or the structures of your property, could you consider that? Because this is awfully tight. There's no way you can build these walls without going on your neighbor's property. And we want to accommodate you. We understand your issues, we want to help. But that puts a burden when you move also upon your neighbors. It's not just you, that property will be there after you're gone.
Right.
And that's a lot of burden on your neighbors to have just that little setback.
Yeah, I understand that opinion completely. I also, I don't know what maintenance would be required with the wall. It is being designed by a structural engineer, concrete footing, rebar, cemented, I mean.
But you need to be able to
hopefully-
get out there and trim it and maintain it and do what you need to do to your land.
Yeah, I mean,
It's nice if it's wide enough to accommodate a little mower.
right.
And this is something that's going to remain with the land after you're gone.
Mhm.
And so your neighbors were going to have to contend with the new owner also, even if they love you.
I mean, I think we could gain a foot. I don't know if we could gain 2. I think it would really change, I think it would really cut down on the ability to, we have some issues with, somebody falling off of this wall and fencing. So we need to leave enough room, which is very tight in the drawing, but we have to design this with a fence so somebody doesn't fall over. And if we suck that wall in a little bit, really would push the whole design out into the yard as well. And then, we need to maintain at least a 3-foot buffer of greenery between any kind of a drop off is what we went over with Roland about. So we tried to design around that too. It would negatively affect that layout, but I believe we could get by with that.
Did you discuss with Roland about a fence along the top of that wall because of the 4-foot drop off and the
We did.
state
Yeah.
building code requirements, so that would all be resolved?
Yeah, this was
Okay.
designed with his approval,
Yeah.
basically the way we laid it out, but we are
Yeah.
especially at this point right here, that's where we're pushing it. We're gonna have to have a fence against the backside that's planted in front of.
Yeah.
Just pushes everything a lot tighter, that's all.
For everyone's understanding, the state building code does mandate that when you get a certain drop off on, where there is a walking or driving surface, that you have to have like a 42-inch barrier at that height, so not, people cannot accidentally step off or fall off. Also too, the pool barrier fencing, you've discussed that, and Roland's all set with that as well? All right, I would like to read 2 documents that we have, and then I'll get into comments and questions from the board. We have one from Rich Crowley that was sent to Jen Gibbons in the Selectman's office in regards to this case, where he asked to have it forwarded to the Littleton zoning board, and because he's not able to make the meeting tonight. He says, "And good morning to you, Dwight. I received your notice from the hearing on August 20th, 2015, in front of Littleton Board of Appeals. Unfortunately, both Paulette and I would be unable to attend. She's working that night, and they have a planning board meeting. Otherwise, would attend and state our support for the changes you plan to make along your property line that separates our two houses. You have shown us the plans in great detail, and we understand clearly what changes will take place. I think it will greatly improve the neighborhood and the town. I am copying the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals so that they understand that we, as your neighbor on two sides, and the most impacted by this work, hope that they will vote favorably on the changes you plan to make. You have our unqualified endorsement for the work. What already is done looks fabulous. It really spruces up this older neighborhood. Good luck with the completion of the project. Richard Crowley and Paulette Crowley. Also, too, from Roland Bernier, zoning officer, and a memo to this board dated August 17th. The 363 King Street, the applicant is seeking a variance to construct a retaining wall with at least 4 foot of unbalanced fill and a pool shed within the required side and rear setback. This office meet with the owner representative and review the proposed construction. The intent of the proposed construction and landscaping is to accommodate an accessible route, footnote number 3, for utilization by the occupants of the single-family dwelling. It was determined that the proposed construction did not enjoy the exception of Mass General Law 40A, Section 3, Paragraph 8, again footnote number 4, and therefore require a variance for creating a nonconformity. As footnote number 3 states, I guess is the definition. Accessible route, a continuous unobstructed path connecting all accessible elements and spaces within or between buildings or facilities. Interior accessible routes may include corridors, floors, ramps, elevators, lifts, and clear floor space and fixtures. Exterior accessible routes may include parking, access aisles, curb cuts, crosswalk at vehicular ways, walks, ramps, and lifts. And I believe that's under the state ADA, state AAB requirements. And there's note 4 that was in regards to Mass General Law 48, Section 3, Paragraph 8, the attachment B, which is the general laws, Chapter 48, Section 3, in regards to variance and special permit. Okay, questions from board members. Alan?
I guess my question is, the way you have the pool laid out here on this map, let's see, I guess it's 426, revised 717. Okay. It's done the way it's laid out here, it's done sort of left to right horizontal. And I'm just wondering, is there any way that could be turned and give you a little less stress on that corner? In other words, be vertical on the page rather than...
Turning it this way?
Yeah, or you angling it
90
some way, you
degrees.
could take a lot of stress off that tightness in the corner, wouldn't it? Seems like you just got lawn over here, so there's no, you could design right around that.
I think the only issue that would come into that, if we did spin this, this corner of the pool, it really can't be a whole lot further out because there's compaction calculations that the structural engineers run on this pool, and the weight of the water behind that pool can only be a certain distance from the wall. And I believe right now it's at 12 feet. We were pushing the 90% factor on that calculation, and he said really to push this out any further, we have an issue. On the side, you know, it could slide a little bit this way, but pushing out this direction is not possible. If we did turn this, this would impact the egress from the existing terrace here down. We would probably have an issue redesigning that staircase. We're trying to minimize and only have two sets of 3 steps so that she can come down easily from here. And then the accessibility issue, if we did twist it, I believe the head of the pool would be a little closer. And we actually can't achieve grade until we're actually at the staircase right here.
I was actually talking about 90-degree turn like that, so if you put it vertical on the page like what we have,
This
you'd actually
direction.
take stress off on the side and off the corner.
I think one of the reasons it was a visibility issue, being able to be up here and be able to see everyone in the pool, that was one of the considerations.
I would say, to your question, it probably could be completely turned, but it would definitely impact usability here, and probably have to add a wall. The grade begins to drop off this direction to accommodate, so we don't have a large fill situation in this corner. We probably have to put a wall in here to hold the ramp up that's coming down, allowing her to traverse from here to here. That would be one issue, that's all.
Can I get your name?
John Durkin.
John?
John Durkin, yep,
J-O-H-N?
yep.
That would take,
And,
allow that.
And you represent Onyx?
Yes, I'm a landscape contractor on the project.
That would allow that
And
outside corner
Onyx
to come in.
Corporation out of Acton.
Okay.
Can I,
Okay, Ellen, you,
I'm all set.
okay. Okay,
I'm
John.
trying to understand the fence. It seems like the fence is at the base of the stone wall?
There's actually two fences, yeah.
Okay, so you have, what is the purpose of the fence at the base of the wall?
The pool
Yeah,
That's-
fence, non-climbable.
well, but you could return it to the wall, or, I don't know, it just seems like that's a,
We discussed that with Roland.
Okay.
The design of the wall, we could go in and put in an ugly precast concrete
so,
wall.
so you're doing a wall that could be climbed or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was his
It's gonna batter
concern,
and
and he
it's
asked
gonna
us that we kept that along the
Okay,
line.
well, that's sort of unfortunate, but, because I'm sure it's gonna be a nice wall. Now, the person that is most affected by the wall is actually this neighbor here. Is there any comment on that? I mean, is any, have we, the one on, if you're looking at them, the one to the left?
Dave Niergar?
Niergar.
Yes, I've shown him plans, he doesn't have any issues.
Okay, I'm just, he's the, I mean, it's at the very end of his property, but he's the one who's gonna have the big wall. I have no comments other than the fact, I try to keep negotiating. You can't put a non-climbable fence at the top of the wall and avoid the one at the bottom? I mean, what you have to have a guard at the top of the fence.
Yeah, you have to have a good,
Could it be, a aluminum picket fence, or, I don't know, I don't know, I'm just.
We haven't explored what the material would be. We have discussed it briefly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we always sort of didn't want to see a 4-foot
Right,
fence.
right.
All the way around
All
the
the way
property.
around the property. And
But your neighbors will have to see it.
it's gonna be, it's not gonna be an ugly, ugly fence, but an ornamental fence would be, it's a chain link, it would be a chain link, one of the mini chain link fences.
This is vegetated with trees and shrubs.
Yeah, that's a
This whole
woodland
wall-
here.
This is wetland,
And that's
so
a
it
sheep
really
pasture
couldn't be
right
cut.
here.
but still, there is a requirement in the state building code for pole fencing.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're-
It's on top of the wall or below the wall. Yeah, and you already have, and you have to have a barrier on the top of the wall to keep people from stepping or falling over. But I think Mr. Yates's question was, can the two be incorporated into one?
No,
At the
that's-
top of
And
the-
it's a small point, I'm just trying to understand it. I don't have the same feeling about bringing the wall back.
I mean, I think it could be explored. I mean, I think we could figure out something with that would work. Now, that's not out of the question. I want to ask probably Roland's opinion. I don't know if there's any issue with that. It would have to be almost cored into the top of the stone wall, and I don't know how we'd have to figure that out, that's all.
It's doable.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so, and I don't know if, my decision would, I'm just saying that to have that short of a distance of the property taken up by a fence is gonna be a pain. You won't actually be able to, there'll be stuff growing up in it, and, anyway. Other than that, I've been very interested in seeing the work that's going on in the front when I drive by, and, so this is interesting.
Sherry?
I came in late and I apologize, but it seems to me that this area where they're talking about needing or requiring the variance is wetlands and buffer areas. So there's not much that's gonna go on their property or abutting property behind there, unlike where if we were in a tight neighborhood and you put something right up against the property line, you're obviously impinging on somebody's usable land back here. And it also seems to me that the construction that they're planning is not like
a side of a garage that needs painting and repainting. It's durable stone masonry that is probably good for 100 years or more. Witness some of our rock walls around here in Littleton. So I'm less concerned about that setback as.
We had just to add to that point, we had a conversation with the Conservation Commission. This has been a problem. The water runs down from the neighboring property and there's now, it was an above-ground pool that was in that spot. It was taken out a few weeks ago. But the water concentrates and comes down and it keeps eroding the bank into the stream bed that's below, which is the drainage from the adjacent road. Amy Green actually supported us building the wall and said this will help stabilize the slope, and she hopes that it will actually vegetate so that it's really habitat that they're
It is
creating.
habitat. It's not something
Right
to
now,
go
it's
mow
not. So.
and room. And I don't think moving it 1 foot or, even 2 feet and interfering with the structural engineering and weight behind the water, behind that pool, is warranted, given its location in that corner, that's all.
My turn?
Yes.
I'm still worried about the distance. These variants are supposed to be neat. Is this your property?
Yes, it is.
By the way, beautiful. I have admired your roses for years out front, and what you're doing with your stonework here is just amazing. Every time I drive by your house probably 20 times a day because I live and work in Littleton, and so I admire what you're doing and keep looking and thinking, oh, I wish I could do that kind of thing. It's wonderful. But I am still concerned about the distance, and the idea behind these special permits and variances is to give you what you need. And it seems like you have a lot of play space up here that, while it's pleasant to have, really isn't necessarily need play-based, and that it really would behoove us to try to protect your neighbors a little bit and give enough space that things can be rebuilt, or even if it's 100 years from now, can be rebuilt and can be maintained. And moving in 1 foot or 2 feet seems like you would still be able to do what you need and have what you need, or turning the pool 90 degrees would seem to still give you what you need and want, but maybe give your neighbors a little bit of relief. And I just worry about the future with that. And we work really hard not to put things right up against property lines and to give people, we've turned down many people over 2 feet or 3 feet and insisted they move things back. And while I'm fully sympathetic and this looks like a lovely design, I think you could probably redesign it pretty easily to give a little bit more of a buffer and still have what you need and still could enjoy.
Did you look into that possibility? Have you already?
Yeah, we've done any number of different orientations and sizes and.
But plants can be moved forward, and these walls could be moved forward and still maintain the weight of the pool, could not they not?
The structural stuff goes to him because he's been dealing with a
Yeah, I
structural
mean,
engineer.
we could probably gain 1 foot. I don't know if we could gain 2. We'd be we're at the 90% threshold at 12 feet from the back of the wall. The pool would have to be
The pool could,
shortened in the orientation it's in now, which
it's a gunite pool.
not conducive.
It's free form, it's a gunite, so if you had to shorten the pool 1 foot to give, like I said, I know you get a lot of beautiful with your neighbors, I know your neighbors love you and all that good stuff. But in the future, you will sell the property. You will not own it 100 years from now. And whatever variance we give you will be in place 100 years from now.
Excuse me, John, how tall is the wall?
It's 9.5 feet at the farthest corner, the tallest point.
What
The
about-
average wall height's about 6.
What about at that corner?
The far corner, that's the
that's
9.5 foot height.
That's the
That's
match
the
line.
size
Significant
corner.
wall.
So you can see that this is the profile looking from the Crowley residence here. So this is the view looking this way from
Yeah.
below.
A pool house could be 8 by 16 pretty easily. And there are times when I fight hard to give people that extra foot for their deck.
But this abutter is not an abutter, it's a wetland. It's an unbuildable wetland. Unbuildable wetland. The
But-
the wall that I would be concerned about is the one at the neighbors. If which,
Yeah,
On this side.
the buffer line, the actual buffer line comes up into the neighborhood, it will never be allowed to clear that either. So this is actually all wetland, within 100 foot.
But does he own it?
He owns to this corner and his property line goes off like that. I don't
And,
know if the
and the
survey shows.
Crowleys own this?
The Crowleys own this, and they were.
They don't own this, who owns this corner here where it's 10 feet tall?
This right here?
Yeah, on the other
That-
side of the 10
That right
feet
there
wall.
is town drainage easement. It dumps into here, right here.
There's a culvert there.
Culvert right here that dumps the water into the.
I understand, but there's still this neighbor and Mr. Crowley's neighbor that are dealing with a wall, and a future neighbor. They're dealing with a wall 10 feet, 1 foot off their property that's 10 feet high.
I just don't, I'm not meaning to be argumentative either, I just don't feel that another foot with a massive granite block wall will do anything for anybody. You need to get 10 feet if something major were to happen.
Yeah, but you can't even build that without going on your property.
We won't be going on anybody's property.
They're
to build
building
that
it from
now.
this side. They're-
There's no pool yet, it's all constructed from this side. That's my.
I still have reservations about it, but I'm done talking.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, just for clarification, the application says, looking for a variance for 173-31, which is intensity of use schedule. So are we deciding, is the variance to the 4-foot height requirement?
No. The
Or the
4-foot height-
variance to
The 4-foot height requirement says it is a structure. The setback in the bylaw under 173-31 says that any structure must be 15 feet off the property line, or accessory structure, and that's what they're asking for.
Okay, so it is a setback.
It is a
So we're
structure,
looking-
setback
okay.
is structure.
So
yes.
we're looking for a variance from a 15-foot setback to a 1-foot setback,
And also the pool house.
and the pool house. And the construction is, that looks like real large,
Big,
They're about
Blocks
2
of
by
granite.
4 feet each block.
these are actual granite blocks.
Yeah, they're antique, old seawall that we've reclaimed and gonna
Oh,
be using
okay.
if we can.
Sounds beautiful.
It'll be a nice wall, yeah.
No, it's not dead vertical, obviously, the fall is.
No, it
that's
actually,
all there's.
it actually has a 1 inch per vertical, as it goes up, every foot it goes up, it has 1 inch batter, so the top of the wall is 10 inches in from the base of the wall at the highest point.
Okay, and you're putting a fence along the bottom so that people won't climb the wall?
And,
Right.
and at the
And-
top
well,
where
yeah,
the fall
at the top,
issue
okay.
is.
Right.
Just wanna- Okay.
Pool code fencing, the reason we had designed the pool code fencing at the bottom is only can look a certain way. There isn't options to beautify that or anything, so that's why we had put it at the bottom. It's a nice black coated or green coated vinyl chain link fence that we can install down there with a small grid on it. It'd be difficult to design pool code fence here that would go with the old wood fence that we're designing for the front of the home that's period appropriate with the home. So we're trying to design wood fencing front and side of the lot as well as along here that would mimic the design of the original home, which is, what is it, 1900? 1900. So all of the pool code requirement would be met by this fence on this side, and then we'd go to a decorative wood fence for this small piece in here. The rest would be more period appropriate wood fence that would match it.
So the fence at the bottom of the wall, and that's that.
mini chain link, the
Yeah.
new vinyl coated.
And what's the fence at the top of the wall?
It'll be a wood decorative something that would keep somebody from falling off, which has a much looser set of rules as far as how it can look, spacing between pickets,
Oh,
climbability.
okay.
Mhm.
So you're meeting the technical pool specification by putting the fence at the bottom, which
Is that,
doesn't seem,
yeah.
No, and I mean, we,
meets the letter, but doesn't really make sense.
no,
Yeah, I agree.
it's really, it's outside people coming in is all you're trying to prevent with pool fence.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That wall
Oh.
would potentially be
Okay.
It's
climbable.
not people going out.
Yeah, the pool barrier is to keep people from,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
young children, from entering the property without authorization.
And the fear that Roland had, we actually added that fence. We were hoping the wall could act as the fence, but it wouldn't fly. He said with antique granite, there's a foothold,
Oh, yeah.
children could
Right.
climb it, it would be a sport to climb it.
I was
It
gonna
would
say,
attract them to
people
climb it, so.
pay money.
Like a
You
rock
need-
wall, they get
you
up the
need
top
to add a
of-
fence at the bottom of the wall.
Like a rock wall, and they get up the top and fall off and get injured and life.
So that's how
Okay.
that ended up there.
Okay.
Good. Mark?
No, I'm all set.
Patrick, comments, questions?
I'm all set.
Right.
I feel more comfortable with a 3-foot setback, because it's still a 12-foot relief from the bylaw.
All right. Cheryl, anything else?
No, I just think we need a little bit more of a setback. We denied the people over off of, was it Blood Road? Because of, for their garage, because they couldn't do a 2-foot setback. And I think that, I think he's doing beautiful things with his property. I'm so glad you've saved this house, because this house was in rough shape before you bought it. And it's beautiful with Victorian, so I want to give you, I really do want to give you everything you want. But I think that, I don't think it's fair to future neighbors and 50 years down the road to put it that close. But you have a bunch of abutters here that I think, or people in town that want to speak out. You got a room full here. I'll shut up.
Any abutters want to be heard on this matter? Anybody want to be heard on this matter? Questions or comments? Okay. Question for you then. Contractor, designer, owner. Hearing the comments of the board, some of the uncertainties, do you want to, we could continue this to next month, if there's not a time restraint on this, and see what you can do to address some of the issues? Or do we go forward tonight and see how the decision comes out?
Can you tell him the consequences of each action?
Consequences are that without substantial change, it'd be 2 years before you can bring it back.
So if we don't approve it tonight, then you can bring it back for 2 years. Whereas if we continue it, you make a couple of minor changes, that would make the board be more likely to approve it, then you could come back next month. Does that make sense?
Could we talk for a quick moment?
Susan, could you just,
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, I came in late, but right now the offset to the property line is how much?
12 inches.
1 foot.
Yes, it's 1 foot.
And you think the best you can do is an additional 1 foot,
Which I could live with.
Sure.
which Cheryl would be satisfied with. And Rod said he'd like to see 3, so I'm just gonna ask Rod, if they came in another foot, would that satisfy?
Well, anything is better than nothing.
And who are the voting members tonight?
Myself, Jeff, Cheryl, Patrick, and Alan.
So,
So
Jeff,
the discussion
Cheryl,
is 1 foot
Patrick.
versus 2 feet. Personally, I don't think 1 foot versus 2 feet is going to be one way or the other. I thought someone had suggested 3 feet or 4 feet, or turn the pool if you can gain 6 feet or whatever else, but I don't see the significance of 1 foot versus 2 feet, other than making the applicant jump through more hoops and
I
just.
think there's a huge difference. I'd like to see
If
3
he
feet,
can get-
but I don't think 3 feet is safe, is based on their pool design. We can't get 3 feet without making them give up their pool design. I don't want to make them give up their pool design. I'd like to see 3 feet. I'm with Rod on this, but on the other hand, I think that 2 feet at least lets you walk around your property without stepping on your neighbor's property.
so,
General criteria is 3 foot minimum to be able to walk around your property.
Well, 2 feet's better than 1 foot.
All right.
so again, they're here, I know that they don't wanna wait a whole month to keep going, because I think Onyx charges you by the key turn or something.
Yeah, we probably.
It's a very expensive
I'm
meeting.
sorry.
Getting the pool
Actually-
done, waiting another
My-
month would be probably not, I don't know.
Be
So-
crucial.
Pushing it.
Be crucial, yeah.
So he's able to do a foot, I think you're able to offer that tonight.
I know,
Move a foot.
I mean, do you feel, I mean, it's ultimately your decision, Dwight.
I mean, if we can smush everything in, probably, I mean, if you say it's.
We can get a foot by the calculations that I have with the engineer. I think he had told me, we didn't want to put it right there harder for us to build it as well. We were kind of dictated that this is a little bit of a buffer zone for us calculation-wise and the weight of the pool. Deep end of the pool is on this end, all the weight is on the wall side. We could gain a foot confidently. I know that we can get a redesign on the wall done that would satisfy Roland, the calculations by the engineer that would.
And if you
be
couldn't, you could
suitable.
put the deep end at the other side.
Or if you can't, you
Or
can
something
come back
like
and
that.
see the
We
board.
tried that already,
Or
because
if
that
you-
would have.
If you really can't, come back and see the board again, you're hearing.
we could-
So you're suggesting we could approve it at foot in tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we did look at putting the deep end, I just want to answer that question fully. We did look at putting the deep end at this end. Her accessibility, she'd have to come down this end, the pool deck would be extended here, and for the width on ADA, for her to be able to access the staircase, there would be no possibility for that. So,
Is there a diving board?
no.
Okay.
Did you look at Alan's idea of rotating it 90 degrees?
Yeah, we did have it this direction at once. It just, the pool was stretched out, and we did require a wall to be designed here to hold that ramp. And with this, we're able to grade because it's lawn adjacent to it. It was looked at. There was 4 or 5 iterations of this before. So, I mean, I'm confident that a foot is doable. I have to say confidently, I can't say 2 is doable with this design, so.
Okay, I'll vote for it if you give me another foot.
All right, then, you know, Cheryl does quite often. A poll before we close the hearing? Rod, your feelings?
Yeah, well, I'm not voting on this anyway.
I know,
but,
but still-
You know, foot, like I said, 2 feet's better than 1 foot.
Right. Patrick? Mark?
I'm not voting, no,
What,
Your
comment? Your feeling?
Well, 3 feet would be nice. Because you're right, I mean, you gotta do any work down there, which you're going to have to because you have a fence. If it was just a rock wall, I'd say, well, you're not gonna work on that in 100 years. But you have a fence, which means it's to stay in compliance every some number of years, you're gonna have to go down there and even look at it. And actually, if you only have a foot from the wall to the property line and you have a fence in the middle of it, you can't walk without stepping on your neighbor's property. And yeah, you know, today, you've got cooperative neighbors, but we've had more than a few instances in the past where you don't have cooperative neighbors, and you would have to go down there and you have a neighbor that would call the police if you stepped on it, so.
I gotta say, Mark, I got a pool fence, it's 30 years old and I've never had to do anything to it. I mean, with the galvanized piping and the chain link and everything else, so.
It is a low profile
Yeah.
fence too, so, I mean, that'll help.
No, it's called the pool fencing.
They have 2 feet,
Diagonal.
they can walk around.
Yeah.
I can,
Cheryl?
even as
Cheryl?
wide as I am, I can walk in a 2 foot
Cheryl?
path.
The pole?
I want 2 feet.
All right. But you could be satisfied with 2 feet.
I can be satisfied with 2 feet
Karen?
because I think it would be a major design otherwise, and I don't want to do that to them.
Thank you.
Comment, Sherry, on the
Yeah,
2 feet? What?
I'm okay with that.
Jeff?
I'm fine with it as is, so 2 feet would be fine also.
Alan?
I also think the house is fabulous. I go by it all the time as
Thank you.
well. And I don't have a problem voting in favor of it. However, I think, given the scale of what you're doing and the beauty of what you're doing, to have your pool area jammed up against that property line just seems to feel uncomfortable. I just think that you could do better with the spacing in that area to make it better for you. But I wouldn't object to it as is.
So move to close.
I move to close.
Thank you.
I'll second.
You want to let me change this?
Do
Okay, Alan? Second?
Second?
Jeff?
we, before we move to close, do we want to give them the opportunity to amend, or how does that work?
No. Don't have to, they already given me consensus and
Oh, that they
that I
would.
would agree, and depends on how the motion
We will
goes.
redesign to reflect that.
Okay.
Okay, hearing is closed, we'll make a decision within the allotted
Do you want to just make
appropriate
it
time.
now?
No, we have another hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Am I mixing up everything with mine thing?
I don't know. I've known him a long time, and I don't know who he's related to. Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask you to chair this one, too,
Why?
because I need to stand down. So if you would open it, I will announce that I need to stand down. And I'm going to leave the room, so I won't even bother you and interfere with your chairing it, how's that?
Okay. Go ahead, Lee. All right. It is now at the hour of 7:55 and beyond, being at 8:25. Case number 858A, petitioner Carl Strathmeyer.
Strathmeyer it is.
Thank you very much. Request a special permit / variance pursuant to section 173-10B1, change, extension, or alteration of a non-conforming uses and structures. Petitioner is seeking an extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use of the property, mixed use / retail retail, residential/retail, as mixed-use residential/retail, for purposes of using the property as a retail business that will sell A, sell and repair musical instruments, B, provide soundproof studio space for private musical lessons and instructions, and C, provide a recital room for musical performances and recitals at 80 King Street.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I need to stand down from this hearing as I have a financial interest in the outcome of the matter.
Okay, so there's regular board members voting on this, myself, Mr. Yates, and Ms. Hollinger. Mark, be fourth member, and Rod? Okay. Sorry, gotta keep notes. Okay. For those who just came into the room after the last hearing had started, everything else, the procedure will be, the applicant petitioner will present the petition. There will be an opportunity for questions and comments from board members. Then I'll open it up to any town officials, if no town officials, to abutters, and then to anyone in the audience. Anyone wishing to speak or be recognized is through the chair. That way we have one person speaking at a time, and we get to hear, everyone gets to hear what's going on. Sir.
Thank you. Let me introduce myself. My name is Carl Strathmeyer. This is my wife, Andrea. The two of us own the music store here in town called the Minor Chord. We've owned it for 5 years. We bought it from Bill Brown, who had started the store in Acton in 1984, so we're now in our 31st year, I think it is. You have the application in front of you for a continuation or an extension of an existing non-conforming use at 80 King Street. So I'm going to explain the reason for us appearing before you to request that special permit. So, by way of introduction, I mentioned the store was founded in Acton by Bill Brown. The store was moved by him to Littleton, over opposite Bob Moran's Toyota dealer in 2010. We purchased it, moved in 2008, we purchased it in 2010. Our business is the selling of musical instruments. We have about a dozen teachers who teach private lessons in our store. We sell accessories, guitar strings, saxophone reeds, things that local music folks need. We do repairs, and we are a major source of sheet music in support of the local schools and local private teachers and our own teachers. So that's the business. We have, let me see here. So we have several items here. You can go ahead to the next slide if you would. We live in Lunenburg, a couple towns west of here. Here's an article that was run by the local Lunenburg paper about our business. A copy is in the material that I've given Shelley that you can see in the file. Okay, thank you. Here are some photos of the interior of the current store. The reason why we are trying to move the store is the current space does not really fit our needs. This is, the space we are in is really a strip mall retail sort of operation, location. A lot of plate glass between us and the street. Quite honestly, we don't need plate glass. People who come visit us, they don't visit us because they walk by and see a guitar in the window. They walk by because they want something musical. In fact, we can't put our merchandise in the window because the temperature changes and the sunlight and so forth would destroy the fine instruments. So we're in a space that doesn't fit us. And as I'll explain in a moment, it came to our attention this past winter that the Weber family was discontinuing their floral business at 80 King Street. It's been there for 90 years. I'll speak more about that in a moment. Next slide. Probably as part of this process, you want to know what our impact on the neighborhood would be. I had my staff go back and look at the customer visits for the past year. We added up both the retail transactions and the number of lessons taught. And as you'll see, we average between 40 customer visits total per day in the slow season, like about now, up to about 60 visits per day in the height of the Christmas season in December. Most of our business days are 10 hours long, so that amounts to a customer every 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the time of the year. Because a customer will stay roughly maybe an average of 20, 30 minutes, that means we have at most 3 or 4 customers or customer groups in the store at a time. So we are not a high-traffic store, we're not a Dunkin' Donuts, we're not something like that. We're more of a destination kind of a place. Yep. In terms of why we would like to stay in Littleton, we made a little map of where our students come from, and you can see the cluster is right around Littleton Center. As far as, we would rather stay in Littleton, we'd rather not move to another town. Should we do so, we would lose a significant portion of our customer base, and a lot of students, adult and school age here in town, would not be served. Okay, so going on to the Webbers and their business. I guess most of you know they were established back in the 20s. This is a photograph that they provided me of what the shop looked like in the 1970s. It is roughly in its current form right now. You can see the residence on the left and the retail shop on the right. So it has been de facto mixed-use retail and residential for many, many, many years. In 1962, which was the last time they did some serious renovation of the property, there was a magazine article done. This is Patricia's living room, which looks almost exactly like it does today. And by the way, one of the reasons why we're interested in the property is we would like to keep it very much in the state that it is today. As I said, we're not a plate glass, retail operation. Being a music business, we fit very well into a kind of a homey, colonial, historically appropriate kind of a setting. So just flip through those. There's a picture of before they built the retail wing on the right. So that was back in the 60s. There's now about another 30-some feet to the right of that structure. There's some of the interior. Again, it looks exactly like you see it today, and we would, in many respects, keep it exactly that way. This is what it looks like today. We have at the top the full residence, the house at the left. There is a 2-car garage connecting the residence with the business premises. We would turn that into more business premises. I'll explain that in a moment. But we would not put plate glass there. We would put a wall and some windows appropriate to the rest of the structure. And on the bottom, you see that there is a sizable parking lot there already. We would use that same parking lot. So that's kind of our general plans. In terms of the site, from the air, the major greenhouses behind the Weber retail property will be dismantled, I'm told. We are not purchasing those. St. Anne's is right across the street. The high school is behind us. And down the street to the left, only about 3 or 4 more doors, is the Indian Hill Music Center. So we would fit into the neighborhood quite well with a lot of musical things going on. There's the lot as it exists today. We have made an offer for the current building with approximately an acre of land to put it on with its improvements. We are not making an offer on the back 4-point-something acres of land. The sellers, the Webbers, accepted our offer back in July at the conceptual level. We are still negotiating the exact lot line. That has more to do with the planning board and site plan and what we have to do to get enough parking and septic system and stuff. But we have an agreement in principle with the Webbers for an acre of land plus or minus. And as I said, that large greenhouse, which is currently connected to the structure, the sellers tell me will be dismantled and sold as basically as a greenhouse kit. In terms of the lot lines, this is only a draft from the Webbers civil engineers. Obviously, it doesn't quite accommodate our parking lot, so we're still negotiating. But it gives you an idea with the setbacks, which the building meets in all respects. Gives you an idea of what the property lines might look like. In terms of usage, today the Webbers, well, up through the end of last year when they discontinued their business, they were using their main showroom, what I have called a display greenhouse out front to show their plants, and a workroom or potting shed where they did their flower arrangements and greenhouse work in the back. That added up to a little shy of 1,600 square feet, but they used the basement and the basement of the garage extensively for storage for the business. Now, our plans, next slide, our plans would be to use most of the first floor of the structure for retail. We would also, in the basement of the more modern wing of the property, we would put private lesson studios. So these are small 8 by 10 or 10 by 10 spaces in which the private lesson teachers would give their lessons. It's a nice basement, it's poured walls, poured floor, and as you saw in that one photograph, it's a walk-in at grade from the parking lot side. So the final question is, this is more of a planning board question, and again, the detailed document is in the envelope there for the record. Question about parking. The Webbers have had about 16 spaces, as I estimated, they're not marked out. And according to the bylaws for parking, 150 square feet to a parking space, they pretty much were dead on. Because we're expanding the gross space, the bylaws may require us, at least on paper, to have a considerably larger number of parking places. I expect to approach the planning board with our actual number of customers, the intensity of use, and maybe come to some sort of arrangement there that may be more appropriate without us having to pave over literally a quarter acre with asphalt. And that is what we intend to do. At this point, we take questions. Thank you.
Okay, question for you. I guess it goes to Shelley as well. In the application, in here, a table of contents, a lot of exhibits. These documents are not part of the folder or part of what we received? The most recently recorded plot of plan, pictures, plans, maps, Exhibit 4, Exhibit 5, Exhibit 6, Exhibit 7, and Exhibit 8.
Those are
not
probably, it's Brian Burke's office who's assisting us with this.
Okay.
And so those materials would be in the materials that I have just delivered. A lot of this material was not available to us either by the notification time because of delays in the seller civil engineering.
It says Exhibit 6, this case does not pertain to the subdivision of Williams, and we don't need it. I think he's just listed a bunch of things that we might need, but we don't need, and he's saying we don't need them. So I think
And
your
you have been
question's
provided, I
answered.
believe, with all of them in the.
He's saying we just don't need them. He's listed them all, but saying that,
okay.
see attached newspaper, you know, it's
NA.
it's just a
okay.
a long
All
way
right.
of saying not applicable.
Okay. That's what was confusing, because I was looking
It
for
is
these
confusing.
documents. Okay.
I think that was a standard checklist for such an application.
We don't usually have people spell it out.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Bill?
Go ahead.
What are you gonna do with the upstairs?
The upstairs will remain a residential unit. For the time being, we probably will rent it out. We reserve the possibility maybe of moving from Lunenburg into that unit in a few years. But for the time being, it would be a rental unit. Hence the request for the continuation of the mixed-use residential/retail.
I see. And I know you're cramped where you are. I've been in your store many times, and it's a lovely store, and your people are very nice and very polite and wonderful to deal with. But with your, what percentage are you increasing your space now?
By very little. The space of our store right now is 3,600 square feet. That includes the retail showroom, all of the private lesson spaces, the administrative offices, and a storage area for example, the cases for the instruments that are on display out in front. So our current premises is 3,650, I think.
And this would be
This would be just over 4,000.
with the downstairs included?
Yes, with the downstairs included. The two additions are, number one, we are leasing another, I would say close to 1,000 square feet in the old mill down in the basement for our instrument repair shop. We wanted to bring that in with the main store for obvious logistical reasons, just makes more sense. That would become a smaller space in our proposed store. That would only be about 400 square feet, but that would be sufficient for us.
So the idea is your business wouldn't increase a lot.
It
You
would
wouldn't be seeing a
consolidate.
lot more flow, you're just consolidating
We're in two
your
locations
existing
now.
spaces.
One for the retail and lessons, one for the repair. We would be consolidating that into one. The second addition would be, we hope to take that two-car garage that's connecting the existing house with the retail shop, and to finish it off. At the moment, it's a post and beam barn, unfinished on the inside. We hope to finish it and make it essentially a meeting room. In our current space, we have no place where we can do instruction for more than one student at a time. In 8x10 space, all we can do is one teacher, one student. There's a lot of market out there for group lessons, whether it be 4 or 5 kids in a band, a little ukulele circle, things like that. And we have no space to do it at all at the moment. So that garage is about another 400 feet.
And that's not including your.
And that's not
4,000.
included at all in anything we do today, but it's an area that, to make our business viable, we would really like to be able to do.
So basically, you're going from 3,600 square feet, what was the number?
But 3,600 plus, we have about 1,000 down in the mill, so.
Well, I'm more worried about the retail. and
So the retail
ag
side, so
only.
3,600.
We're at to 4,400.
To 4,400, including the repair business, which is currently located off-site. So 3,600 to 4,000,
I
if you look
understand.
apples to apples, just the retail part.
Thank you.
Is the display green? Oh,
Before you start, let me get into Roland's comments, because in case this raises any other questions or comments. Memo to the Board of Appeals dated August 17, 2015, from zoning officer Roland Bernier in regards to 80 King Street. The applicant seeks a special permit for the conversion of a legally pre-existing use into full retail in a residential district. This office met with the applicant to discuss the proposed change. It is my understanding that 80 King Street has 2 legally permitted uses of greenhouses and single-family dwelling in a residential district. Over the years, the retail component became accessory to the on-site growing of flowers and eventually into a florist retail business competing for primary use of the property. It could be argued that the retail component of the property fits the home occupation use as allowed by right. The applicant seeks to change the use of the property to full retail unrelated to agriculture. It is my opinion that this is a variance request rather than a special permit, that the applicant is creating a non-conforming use. Now, let me ask you, because in your application, you state petitioner seeks the granting of a special permit for purposes of using the property as a retail business that will, A, sell and repair musical equipment, B, provide soundproof studio space for private musical lessons and instruction, and C, provide a recital room for musical performance and recitals. But you are asking for a special permit for the extension of a petitioner seeking an extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use of the property, mixed-use retail, residential retail, as mixed-use residential retail. So you're asking for what is currently a mixed-use residential retail to an extended residential retail.
Yes.
My question is, the A, sale and repair of musical instruments, that's retail. Soundproof studio space for private musical lessons and instructions. My question is, how is that retail? And third, provide a recital room for musical performance and recitals does not fit the definition of retail. So, based on Mr. Bernier's comments and based on those questions, you're asking for retail residential. So if we were to grant retail residential and restricted it to retail, how do these other 2 components enter in as retail?
There, I would have to defer to someone with direct knowledge of the zoning. As a music store operator, the provision of lessons and the provision of repairs on instruments is an integral part of the retail music business. So from my perspective as the operator of the business, I certainly considered the lesson part, the repair part, and the student presentations as part of their lesson experience, all to be part of the retail music.
And that'd be like an assembly or instructional. So that would be an extension, beyond what is currently strictly retail that was previously operated under Weber's Conservatory.
Bill, can I clarify what I think Roland was saying? I think Roland was making the case that the previous use was agricultural and that this is retail, and therefore it needs to be a variance rather than a special permit.
Correct.
So I think what you want to address is the that we want to change this from a special permit to a variance, because it's not the same use, whereas the first one was agricultural and this is retail. That's what Roland was suggesting. I'm not sure he's right, but that's what Roland was suggesting.
I had a conversation with Roland, and he did point that out, because, yes, originally Weber's Conservatory for Floral was under state exemption, Chapter 40A, Section 3, I believe it is, for no exemptions, agricultural, when it was first established. And then it generated over the years less of the growing of the flowers, but into the floral business.
That was my
Right.
discussion with Mr. Reyes.
And what you're doing is going from something that was an agricultural component in a retail store, now expanding that. So I still, with Roland's statement and with the question about it being quote-unquote retail, no. You look at the zoning bylaw, there is no definition of retail. You look in a Webster's dictionary, and it says the sale of goods to a consumer. Goods, products. All right? License is not the sale of a product. So I put that out for clarification, so however this gets decided, we're all on the same page and understanding as to what terminology we're using and how things get finally determined.
Can we add the variance factor?
I'm not quite sure when it would be appropriate to say something. Am I able to, as a citizen not on the zoning board?
Okay,
We'll get there.
I get to it after board, but only if you have input into what the discussion is right now.
Yes, as I understand it,
Address yourself so we have it on the record.
my name is Shafia Chicarelli, 45 Washington Drive.
Okay.
And I believe that in the zoning laws, there is something about retail including service.
Yes.
Bill, can I also,
Right.
with regard to this use, we've had this before about the school or educational component of what you provide, which is specifically allowed in residential areas. But I'm just let me say this, and the Indian Hill is operating in a residential area.
That's true.
Providing the same exact services.
Okay.
So the-
Educational in the state zoning chapter is for K through 12. It is not for
How is
private
Indian Hill
lessons.
operating in its location?
Educational under the state zoning act exemption does not, cover anything outside of, as I just said, K through 12 school. Music lessons is not followed
It
under the
follows-
education.
We certainly
Nursery schools,
decided that
infant
differently
care.
back with Indian Hill.
I'm just telling you what the state zoning act allows as an exemption. So without the state exemption, which overrules the local bylaw, we have to go by the local bylaw.
My only question
Wait
is,
a
do we
minute.
need to make this a variance instead of a special permit?
Okay.
I'm okay with making it a variance as well as a special permit, or I just want to make sure that if whatever we do, whatever we vote on is done correctly. If we need to make it a variance, let's make it a variance. If we need to continue it as a special permit, that's fine. I'd like to debate that merit before we debate the merits of the case.
Jeff, you finished with?
This is really complicated. You're gonna have to
Yes.
bear with us.
Sorry.
Even the
This
spe-
is-
even-
this has nothing to do with-
Even the special permit variance thing, I believe, I'd have to think about I think it'd be more advantageous for you to have a special permit, and I think it would be for us, because then because my concern is that if we give a retail variance to this property after you leave, could it be any retail use? That would not be the purpose, that would not be the basis on which we would like to do this. However, as I understand it, with a special permit, we would have
Another use comes
another,
along,
they'd have to go through the special permit
So I
process.
think we can call it school educational use and a continuation of the retail that was there that was grandfathered. I think we don't have to go to the variance level. I think we can stay at the special permit level. And personally, I agree with you. I'd like to stay at the special permit level.
Yes.
All right. Whatever the decision is, goes with the property. If it's a variance, it goes with the property, not the owner or the specific business. Okay, that's a pure fact under state law.
But if it's a special
Okay,
permit,
Special permit, there can be some conditions and restrictions to it. But again, no, we need to be very careful and make sure we are appropriate, not by what our personal feelings are, but appropriate under what is written in the Town of Littleton zoning bylaw or the State Zoning Act.
I'm looking at the bylaw right now.
Yes.
And it says, the proposed change, with the exception of existing, comply with the current bylaw, but existing nonconformity. Now, the
Yeah.
existing nonconformity is retail business.
Well, first of all, you're talking about residential property and not a business property.
It is a residentially zoned
That's
property.
for one and two family use only, not for the residential, or the retail or business component. You have to flip over to go to B,
Okay,
which we wrote and passed a town bylaw, town meeting this
But
past
it-
spring, and
okay, fine.
I don't think I have that.
It's,
we don't have an update.
if you go to page 8, Jeff. So what is the change here? The change here is they're increasing their size, correct? And the change is they're going from selling flowers, which are agricultural, to selling musical parts and music scores, et cetera, and repairing, and then there's the educational factor, which is allowed anyway.
No, let's back up. Make sure you're factual and, okay. Yes, the request is for the extension or change from the selling of flower and flower products, retail, to the selling of musical instruments. I don't think there's any question there that that is retail, and that's what's being requested. The question now has been raised that the component of lessons, as a separate part of it, does not fall under the definition of retail. So that in order to put that component in, now we could do a special permit and a variance.
I don't think we need to, Bill. Look, the change or extension or alteration is provided in MGLC 40A of such pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended or altered by special permit by the special permit granting authority, provided that no extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there is a finding by the special permit granting authority, us, that such a change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming use. Once changed to a conforming use, no structure or land shall be permitted to revert to non-conforming use. Okay, so what we're looking for here is, shall it be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? I mean, I think that's our only question here, is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? And
Okay.
that's, I think once we
Right.
determine that, if we can determine that, we can do all this under special permit.
Right.
I really don't want to
Okay,
grant
look,
a variance in
okay.
a residential neighborhood.
I really don't think we shouldn't be spending a lot of time going through the semantics of this, or that it says such pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses. The structure is not the question, it's the use. May be extended or altered by special permit. Extended or altered. It does not say, and no special permit cannot grant a non-conforming use to be applied to a conforming use property.
Right, it's not conforming.
Okay, so therefore, it still raises the question, and I have gone through this in depth, in other cases in my previous profession, and there is litigation on this, that if you have a use of their outline, that what is allowed in a certain zone in a district, that, yes, there is a non-conforming component that's there for the use that's currently operating. But Roland said that he felt it was under agricultural originally, and it just slipped into, as the agricultural growing of flowers were reduced over time by demand, more of the retail component. But anything that's been there for 6 years is now grandfathered. So retail is grandfathered at that property legally.
Okay.
They are now requesting to change it from agricultural products to musical products, all right? And then adding another component, and that's why I raised the issue that the other component does not fall under retail. So that would have to be a variant to allow a use that's not allowed by right to now be allowed and attached to this retail component.
I'm thinking Jeff is suggesting we don't need a variance for that.
Well, or I'm
saying
suggesting that
legally, you do need one.
I don't agree with that. I think that we could accept at face value the expert in the music retail business, that part of a music retail store is providing lessons and performance space.
Okay.
As part of the retail.
He is the expert in his business. We are not necessarily, but closer to the experts in the zoning enforcement of what the town bylaw says and what the state zoning act says.
I'm not saying we have to find it, but I'm saying that we can. I
We can if it's a variance,
He-
but not as
Pull
a
the
special
board on
permit.
this?
No, I don't need to pull the board on it.
So
I'm
so
telling
you
what-
would say that we would issue a variance to
Well,
allow them to
I'm not
have
gonna have the
recital?
board make a decision that's not appropriate
No.
and
what
legally
we're
could be
s-
challenged and
We're
overruled.
saying that according to
Okay.
this bylaw, and what we just read,
Let me summarize this in a different way, or ask another question. Right? Because there's such a divide on interpretation here and everything else, I would like to have the time to have this presented to town council and have him weigh on in regards to the legality of it. I don't want this board writing a decision that's not appropriate, for you, or not appropriate for the town. Okay, I want to make sure we are doing the right process. And at this point, I would like to have a legal decision from town council. So if you would allow that we continue this for 1 month, we could get a legal opinion from town council as to the matter, is this a special permit, is it a variance? Can we issue a special permit for a use that's, not covered under special permit or whatever? Would you be willing to extend for 1 month?
I would be willing, obviously, it has a financial impact on us. I defer to the board if there are serious legal issues that you need to have clarified. By all means, let's have whatever decision is going to happen with good footing. I could point out that every month's worth of delay is costing me another month's of rent in my current location if I'm allowed to stay there. And so, it does have a serious financial.
can we,
But,
let's
wait,
let's ask
let
Alan.
me just.
To answer your question,
I-
yes, if it is the way the board can come to a decision that you can defend, and are confident of, that's what we have to do.
But the sword of Damocles, as it's called, that overhangs here, that if we write an inappropriate decision and, allow you special permit variance, whatever, we allow you to go forward as you propose. And that at any point up to 2 years, that could be challenged in court. And what if the court says, nope, not right, send it back to the ZBA, you must change your decision, then that would more financially affect your business.
That's true.
Again,
If I
there-
could suggest, though, I think as I hear the board's debate,
Yep.
I think the question comes down to a rather simple one, which was suggested by one of the observers here, which is, to what extent are services a proper part of a retail business? And I think most retail businesses do have a services component. If I sell washing machines up here, I certainly expect someone to be able to drive up with the truck and fix it when it
Well,
breaks.
we had a big discussion about an auto dealership, that whether servicing and auto repair and body work was part of the sales of automobiles. There was a long discussion on that, and it came down as variances that were granted, not special permits.
So, at any rate, it just seems to me that is the question.
Yep.
I would not call our business a music school like Indian Hill. They don't sell anything, right? They don't, a lot of our students are in fact customers. That's one reason why the retail music business puts both under the same roof, is the students buy instruments, the instrument buyers take lessons, right? So, in our case, it's an integral part of the business. Whether from a legal perspective it has to be considered separately, I can't speak to that.
Okay, all right.
Alan
okay.
has had a lot of experience with these matters.
Do you mind?
ZBA on it, and
Sure,
you have
sure.
to be polite as a chair.
Yeah.
You have to let us speak as a chair, you have to listen to other people's opinions as a chair.
I am trying to maintain order, as
You
I
still
said.
have to listen to I waited politely, I listened to what you're saying, you still have to listen to other people.
Are you done?
Could you please
Okay.
ask Alan to speak to this? Because he's had some experience with this, or maybe Alan's not comfortable, I don't know.
Could we hear
Okay.
butters?
No, I want to
Okay.
finish with the board, and as I have done in the other cases, I will start to my far left, which is Mr. Bell, and you were next on my agenda to other questions or comments, Mr. Bell.
I'd like to pass to yield to Jeff right now, so I can read Roland's opinion, and then I'd like to come back to it.
Okay.
That's
Jeff, do you have questions or comments?
As I said, I think this is complicated. I think that there are, I think it would be in everyone's interest if we could find this as a special permit. I do not agree with you about holding this auxiliary use as separate from the purpose of the retail. I, however, would also say that while this seems a good fit for the property, we have to hear from abutters.
Yes.
And I guess that's I'm finished.
Cheryl, comments or questions?
I agree with Jeff. I think that this would be better decided under a special permit. I think that the legalities of it are such that we can go there and can fit it under a special permit and decide whether or not, decide this case based on whether or not it's detrimental to the neighborhood. And as to that, I would like to hear from the abutters first before we go any further on that.
Yep, they will be asked.
And I don't want to express an opinion on detrimental use or not, or whether or not we should grant this permit until I hear from the abutters. Mark?
I agree with you, Bill, that I think we need to address legal counsel to determine from their perspective whether it's a variance or a special permit. With that said, I would lean towards hoping it's a special permit, because even though this is a great retail use of that facility, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if we put in a variance and in 3 years they decide to move again, what other retail,
Could we end up with
now it's a retail establishment, and, you know, what type of retail could then move into there that may not be appropriate?
Which is a valid point. Yes.
So that's, you know,
That's why I say it needs to be done properly. And, you know, with whatever conditions or restrictions are applied to, whether it's a variance or a special permit, is going to be very important in future use, because again, it goes with the property, it does not go with the owner. Mark, you done?
Yes.
Patrick?
I think town council should look at this and let them get an answer one way or another.
Ron?
Point of clarification, both residential and business are circled in the application, which is a,
Yeah, for zoning district, Shelley? It says residential and business zones. Is it a residential or is it a business zone? That's a good point, Ron.
should be corrected, whichever. Okay, second thing is, I think there was an excellent presentation. I think it gave good perspective. Third thing, to protect everybody, it probably can't hurt to pass it by town council. However, to me, lessons are selling a service. To me, that's retail.
Shelley just stepped out to check the zoning map. While she's doing that, any abutters who wish to be heard on this?
Alan's ready to be.
I'm ready.
Oh, wait, okay.
First of all, let me just say that I'm business neighbors with these folks. We're often there late at night. They're often, I'm assuming, lessons, people going in and out. It's always been quiet. People have always been nice. I never hear any musical, any noise or there's no nuisance at all. They've been great neighbors for us, so just to say that, number one. Number two, I'm also very familiar with the Weber's property, having relationships with them in various levels. And I think it's a brilliant move, actually. I think it'd be great for you guys to be able to make that move. So I would fully support that happening. It seems to me that a special permit actually gives us a little more leeway in terms of specifying to a greater degree what will happen in this property, and that we could also revisit that if it were to come back to us again. A variance kind of, in my understanding, gives more of a blanket permission for property owners in the future, if they were to move elsewhere, to do a lot that we might not want them to do, that they could interpret the variance to allow them to do. So my sense is that I think that going forward with a special permit will enable us to specify how we would allow these folks to move in and do their business, consolidate their business. I think they'd be contributing members to the community. I think it would be a great use of that space. It would be clearly in alignment with what's going on at Indian Hill. And I think we can move forward on that. And I don't see a big legal issue coming back and biting us in the future from that.
Under either category, variance or a special permit, depends on how the conditions or the restrictions are written, so that there would be safeguards in there that, it would be most likely worded per what the application says, so that whatever accessory uses or instructional or repairs that would go with the business could be worded in to give us that same protection.
Okay.
Does it,
Kelly?
I have to go look it up on the
but does it matter that the Webbers used to give lessons in flower arranging?
Yeah, that's.
Is that make it grandfathered?
Documented?
Does that,
You could say that growing plants is repairing plants.
Well, Roland had pointed out that was under the agricultural exemption umbrella.
Yeah.
Okay, abutters, and please identify yourself for the record.
abutters first?
I just said that. Abutters?
Michael Drury, 74 King Street. I'm 100% behind the Minor Chord. I think they're a wonderful outfit, a great group. I'll be excited to have them next door to us. Hoping they can get Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young over with a concert on, but I think it's a wonderful use. I'm just hoping that if they do decide to sell, that a contracting company like a bulldozer business doesn't open up and be,
That's the difference between a variance and a special permit.
Whatever they need to get in there would be wonderful for me and for us.
Any other abutters? Okay, anybody else in the audience wants to be, identify yourself?
Shafi Ciccarelli, just as clarification, I found in the zoning laws, what I was referring to as 173.26 in the definition of commercial uses, where it just says retail sales, comma, service.
Yes. But again, in a residential zone, that's no, which means a variance is required.
It's an extension of a pre-existing use.
Okay. No, you don't know if
Under
it's,
the retail/service. The use isn't changing.
did you,
You get that?
right. Anybody else? Okay.
I think,
Other than the clarification, is there's residential, I want to hold off on closing until we find out, All right. Jeff, go ahead.
I'm saying, I think it's in your interest to let us get legal, because we're gonna have to write a decision that will be not able to be challenged. We're not attorneys. This is pushing pushing things a little bit,
Sure.
but we're all with you.
But
So-
tonight was a good thing, because we found out that the abutters are happy and people are here to support you, and that no one is upset with your change of use, and it doesn't seem to be detrimental at all to the neighborhood. And so this, I'm sorry to delay you a month. I would have liked to spare you that, but it's not going to happen.
Would it be appropriate for the board to take a decision that said, yes, you are in support of this use of the property, and in your decision-writing process, you will decide the exact form?
I have trouble with it if it's a variance, because if it's a variance, a retail variance, then yes, we could get someone selling lawnmower parts there.
Okay.
And that, I would have trouble with that. I don't have trouble with a special permit. So if it's a variance, I have to sit back and think about it a lot and worry about the neighbors a lot. If it's a special permit, I'm not worried about the neighbors if they're
So,
happy.
okay, if I understand properly, then some of the board members, such as yourself, are not comfortable going forward with an open-ended, special permit, special
No,
permit
we
variance.
can't do that.
Some of you have specific
No, we
feelings.
can't vote on
That's fine.
an open-ended thing.
Understand, I accept that.
Yeah, it has to be very specific, but even the restrictions or the conditions and everything else would be carefully worded however it comes out, such that it would be geared towards what your proposal is, your petition is, and also too, to protect that if your business were to leave 30 years down the road, 20 years down the road, you retired and went to Florida, and somebody else came in for the next adventure, that any change outside of the extension that we would be granting, whether it's variance or special permit, that they would have to come back to this board, or whatever form that is appropriate at that particular time.
This gentleman has an offer in on this property. Can we give him a little assurance and take a preliminary vote that if it was a special permit, that we would be granting it, so that he feels comfortable going on with his contract or continuing his contract? Do we want to do, can we do that?
If
sort of
we
thing?
are going to continue to have the chance to check town council, then that may be premature until we hear from town council. Shelley, have you, zoning?
I'm working on it. I'm having a
Given
hard time getting.
given
a
that, may I
connection in
suggest
here.
that in deference to some of the other petitioners who are here, that we table our issue, set it aside, deal with the board's other business, and maybe come back to it when Shelley has the research done and so forth.
So I can go look it up on my computer.
I mean, if we're gonna
It's
extend it, you can
residential,
come up
isn't
with,
it?
probably, you can come up with that by next meeting.
I
Well,
believe
I
it's
can
It's not
do
gonna
it now,
change
but
anything.
Well,
the
yes,
other
it is.
meetings
If it's a
was
business zone, then we
business.
fall under the
That's
business
zoned
uses.
resident,
Yeah.
that piece of property in that area is zoned residential, isn't it?
I can go downstairs and look, I might come downstairs.
I think there's a
I think-
business
I mean,
component.
there's an
I
advantage to
think
having a butter
business
who's
may
our
have been
town
checked
clerk.
because there's a business.
I'd be surprised if it
Residential
was
zone.
business, but.
I
I'd be
believe it's
surprised if
residential,
I know.
because both sides of it, I've sold the piece on the right.
If it was business zone, you wouldn't need to
And
be
that was
here.
residential.
Right.
As a prospective purchaser who's done his due
Okay.
diligence, I
It's
believe it's
residential.
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept that.
She's asking if she can speak to.
The residential or
Yes.
She'd like to speak to.
Oh.
Okay, Bill?
We go to the next hearing and then come back to it.
Bill?
I can't get an internet connection.
If a variance is needed for something, let's say, to make a declaration that lessons are retail or lessons are allowed, can that be minimized and the majority of the decision be a special permit?
We could do both.
Yeah.
We could do both. We could issue the special permit for
And
one.
I guess I could
and
see
then-
how that could work. You could make the variance for a specific,
For lessons?
for lessons.
If necessary. I think it's
Yeah, I'd agree with
retail.
So a
But if that's what
special
you had to do-
permit for the business
Right.
use, but a variance just for lessons.
Right.
So if the business was sold, the only thing that would go with it would be the variance
Variance.
for.
That's
Which
only
is-
if town council
No,
feels
no,
it's
no,
not,
no, no.
it's not a retail business lessons. Or if there's some aspect of it that requires a variance, let's try to minimize that aspect of it.
I don't want a stone yard to end up there.
It won't.
I don't want the ability
It won't.
for retail.
I understand that's why I'm saying
That
try to
won't
minimize
happen.
it. Let town council try to minimize the variance requirement.
I don't,
First of all, it's up to the applicant, do you want to allow a continuous for 1 month? If not, then we'll go forward and close the hearing and make a decision later on. But it sounds like it's going to be
What I
mixed.
hear from the board is that everyone is in support of this business moving into that space, but there are different views about the form of the
petition.
special permit or the variance. Some of you
Yep.
are uncomfortable making that decision until we hear from town council and so forth. So on that basis, I don't see any point to asking for a vote now. I don't think I don't sense, not knowing who's voting exactly, but I don't sense that there is a consensus.
And for both special permits and variances, you need 4 out of the 5 positive votes. So if you get 2 questionables, it does not pass. So you
It's
need
not gonna carry.
4 out of the 5. And, you
You
know,
got 2
I'm
questionables.
voting, Mr. Yates, Ms. Hollinger, Mr. Stewart, and Mr. Socia,
So why don't you poll us? Poll the board.
okay? Right?
I think it's a fine use, and I'd go for it either way. I just desire that we minimize the variance component of it.
Do you feel that it's strictly a special permit or a special permit and variance?
Well, if town council feels there's a
Well,
variance
let's say
required-
if we were to go forward tonight,
Mhm.
rather than going to town council, I'm not gonna make an opinion until I hear from town council, so.
Yeah, I think I'd probably support it either way.
No,
Mark?
special permit or,
That, I can't really answer. I'd have to do a little more research. Obviously, special permit's the best way to go. And I still think if it's around music lessons, I don't see this need for a variance for that.
I think it's a great use for the property, but I am concerned how we allow it. And unless I know that, unless we know it's a special permit type where once they, at some time in the future, move out, something we don't want can legally move in, I'd be real uncomfortable voting for it tonight.
Cheryl?
I'm all for it as a special permit, got real reservations as a variance.
Yeah.
I would support this as a special permit. I think all the uses come under the retail, which is grandfathered on the site.
I add myself that, when you're asking for the sale and repair of musical instruments, I believe that is a special permit, I have no problem with it. Even the studio space for musical lessons, instructions, I don't have a problem with. But a recital room for musical performance or recitals, to me, that does not fit under no special permit, and that would be a variance, because it is a completely different use. So, no, that's where the board is going. We would have to, again, decide on, whatever the motion is, and if it's strictly a special permit, you need 4 out of 5 positive votes. If the motion is special permit for 1 or 2 and variance for 1 or 2 with condition and everything else, again, you need 4 positive votes out of 5. Strongly, I would like to get council legal opinion on this.
What I
before.
hear from the voting members is 3 who would happily accept a special permit, and 2 who would like some advice from town council before deciding any particular form of response to the petition.
All right, so are you,
I'm perfectly aware of that, so
so,
I see no point in asking for a motion or a
But even
vote.
for a special, does he need 4 for a special permit?
pardon?
He needs 4 for a special permit, yes.
Special permit and variance, 4 positive votes.
Yeah.
Yep. So therefore, our next meeting would be September 17th. You're requesting a continuance to September 17th so we can get,
Yes, please.
okay.
Could we put another meeting in there for him, rather
all
than
right.
making him wait? Is there a
Shelley, do
hardship?
we have anything else coming up for September? Is there anything else already on, or can we put this on?
Find any time, so this can be first.
Okay, the only problem with it being first is I've got a cross-country meet that day. I don't know what time we get back, probably by 7, but I can't guarantee
Put
it.
it later, but what I'm suggesting is in cases where there have been properties under agreement and cases where there have been issues, we've certainly scheduled additional meetings. Is this such a case? Is there such a
yeah.
hardship? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, well, first of all, we have to make a specific time and date tonight.
Don't know, like
I
town
am
council.
not available the first 2 weeks in September.
He's very
so-
responsive tomorrow.
And also, too, we would need to get time for a response from council. So,
It's the end of
Shelley,
August.
the time?
Diane just got back. She
Diane?
said it is.
All residential, that's what we've assuming. Thank you.
So why don't we say 7:45, will that?
Yeah,
Okay, we can set 7:45, and if the other cases come up and everything else that, if they run over, we can always have it at any time after 7:45, just not before. All right, do I get a motion?
Move and continue the hearing to September, what was it?
17th.
17th at 7:45.
Second? Somebody want to second the motion?
Oh, I'll second it.
Thank you, Mark.
Trying to make sure there's nothing else on the 17th.
All those in favor of continuing this hearing to September 17th, 2015 at 7:45 PM?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay.
At least there are
And
two
we will
others.
put a request into town council for his opinion on this. All right. Thank you.
It's sad to see Weber's go out. I bought a lot of flowers from them. Oh, yeah. We used to chat, yeah, go in there and chat. Nice guy.
Yeah, actually, I coached his son at trial.
First I started buying flowers there like 43 years ago.
Okay, yeah, I'll be in touch with
Sherry, I'll do.
Well, this isn't very helpful back anyway, so it's just keeping it.
I'm looking for my agenda. Did you steal my agenda?
I have to read this from the next one too, just because I need it downstairs.
Another retaining wall.
Yeah, I know, that's what.
June 18th.
These people can't wait to reopen and hear them out.
Why can't they?
They have the lease expiring in October and they have renovations if they're moving. We just can't wait till the 17th for a decision.
Can we just schedule
Well,
another?
Then they'll take the chance that they're not gonna get a decision.
Can we schedule another meeting?
They might want to have you vote the special permits. What I heard was special permits on everything except the rehearsal. The rehearsal space.
So they could
And let
meet
them come
we-
back in
for a variance.
Recital space.
Later. I want to ask them if they want to do that tonight.
Or do you want to ask us to schedule another meeting?
I think they need an answer to it.
I was worried about that.
Well, we just continued the hearing now.
We can reopen. We have the power.
I know that.
Can
I
we
know you know
vote on
that.
something and then have it reviewed?
What?
Could we vote for a special permit and then?
Make it contingent
Have it.
upon review?
No. Once you write a decision, it cannot be contingent.
What do you feel is a requirement for a variance, or what requires the variance, if anything?
The third point that they're requesting for the recitals,
So can't we say,
we could grant.
they just grant a
we could do-
variance for the recital?
We could put that off for a month.
So shall we grant the
And then we
special
could do a
permit?
special permit on the other two.
Yeah, but why can't, I mean, if the variance is just on a recital hall.
We
then-
could have a split decision on this. We could write one decision for the point A and B, and then hold off, continue it for point C, and do that after we get an opinion.
That sounds like a great idea.
What do you think I've been saying for the last hour?
Not that clearly.
Okay. All right. Elm Road.
So they would initially get everything but the recital hall.
All right. Now, if they want, I don't know if they're still in the hall, that.
I think they are.
After we do this hearing, that we will reopen and, okay. Yes.
Can we legally do that now that we continue?
Yes, we can. Yes. We can take a vote to
Did
reopen.
you steal my agenda? My agenda walked
No,
away. I haven't
mine's
moved.
right here.
Here, you can borrow mine. That's the agenda.
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry.
Okay, at 8:10 case, which is now 9:25, the hour of 8:10 and after, case 859A, petitioner McKinley Holding Incorporated, request for a special permit / variance pursuant to section 173-31, intensity of use schedule, setbacks for a proposed retaining wall in connection with a sewage disposal system at map U-17, parcel 146, lots 1008 to 1010 Elm Road. Voting will be myself, Mr. Yates, Ms. Hollinger, Patrick. You voting?
Yeah.
And Alan?
Okay. Sherry has to step down from this one, too?
No, she had to go to downstairs, the planning meeting.
No, she said she had to step down from this one.
She just said that she's needed downstairs to the planning board meeting. Okay, Elm Road, go ahead.
Yes, I'm requesting a special permit for retaining wall the engineers looked at all the different options for putting a septic system in, and this was the only way. And it passes, you know, Title V and all that for a two-bedroom septic. Basically, in a nutshell, just, you know, a retaining wall for the septic system.
Why is it a special permit and not a variance for setback to property lines?
Don't know that. My engineer was here early, but he had to run to a meeting in a different town. That I'm not sure.
Okay, what is there now?
It's just a vacant lot.
So nothing exists. So you want, okay, you get a structure, a retaining wall, that has an unbalanced fill anywhere from +1 to +8 feet.
Yes, in one small area, yes, on this side right here, yes.
+1, +5, +8, 6,
Yes.
3.8, 2.8, 2,
Yep.
6, 6. So they have anywhere from, okay, anything over 4 feet becomes a structure.
That's
Structures
correct.
has setbacks. So, again, hold on 1 minute here. No, the application is requesting a variance.
So it is a variance.
Variance, okay.
Sorry about that, yes.
All right.
You got me confused there for a moment, sorry about that.
Okay, a variance under 173.10 and 173.31 tends to be used for setbacks. Okay. Building a retaining wall for retention of the septic system. Has this been to the Board of Health?
Yes, it has.
And have they approved?
That is my understanding, yes, the engineer. Yes.
It's been signed off?
Again, the engineer was here because we were running about an hour, a little over an hour late. He had to run to another meeting, I apologize. I believe it has.
It doesn't really matter if it has been or not.
Yeah, I
That's-
believe it has.
It's not really.
How do the,
Be here.
One at a time, please. Okay, so it's been to the Board of Health?
Yes.
Okay, so they've seen this and everything else, and you're not sure if it's been signed
Yeah,
off or not?
I'm pretty sure, or I think we would come to this step of the Board of Health. Would it sign off, we couldn't be here.
All right, now, under it for a variance, okay, there's criteria, and there were no statements. Okay, there's a statement from in the butter, but there's no statements that were submitted with this application, as we have in our instructions that outline certain points that attached to the written statement that specifically describes existing conditions, your objections along with plan specifications, documentation necessary to support your request, and that specifically includes why owing to conditions, soil shape, and topography, especially affecting the premises, but do not affecting generally the zoning district in which you live. Literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw would result in substantial hardship. Please, applicant must clearly demonstrate a lack of alternative remedies. So, what's unique about this property such that this retaining wall is required?
I have a letter, it was from the engineer explaining that would help.
You want to read that and then submit it, please?
Yes. You want me to read that into the minute? Yes. This is from Markey and Rubin, the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals, policy 146, enrolled in. Dear members of the board, this office has designed a sewage disposal system for a proposed two-bedroom dwelling on the above-mentioned parcel. The septic system has been designed to meet the state environmental code for a two-bedroom house and is the smallest and lowest profile that can be designed. The design incorporates a pressure distribution technology, which has been noted by DEP to be far more effective treatment of effluent prior to discharge to the ground. Well, according to the design parameters, DEP affords the use of a smaller footprint for pressure distribution. Therefore, the proposed system is the smallest and lowest possible profile for this lot. In order to construct a sewage disposal system, a variance is sought to construct a retaining wall along 3 of the existing property lines. The wall variance is sought based on the following circumstances. Lot shape. The existing lot is long and narrow, requiring the need for a wall to construct the system to prevent grading onto adjacent property. Soils. The existing soil typical accommodates a sewage disposal system but requires a substantial area for construction of the system. Slope. The existing slope of the land required the need to construct the wall as the lot slopes at a constant grade downhill to the road. If you have any questions, please contact my office at the number below.
Thank you. That answers a lot of questions, covers a lot of questions. Okay. And the hardship is that if you can't have the wall, you can't have the septic system.
And then can't build a house.
Cannot build a
Can't do
house.
anything correct.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, questions from the board?
This is currently vacant land?
Yes.
How can
And-
you,
Jeff, please, go ahead, Cheryl.
How high is this retaining wall?
It ranges in areas from 1 foot, the highest would be 8 foot at one point, at 2 points across the
And-
two small areas. At
and
most, it's
how-
1 to 3 feet.
And how far off of the property line is it at its closest point?
At its closest point, I'd say,
I can't tell by this map.
yeah, here's a bigger plan here. I would say within a foot, it's close, it's very close.
That's all my questions.
Jeff?
I don't understand the setbacks of the structure. They don't seem to conform to our zoning bylaws, so I'm curious as to how this is being built.
How it would physically be built, is that?
Well, no, you're not coming here for variances to setbacks, but yet the structure is clearly within 15-foot side setbacks and 30 feet
Front setback.
Yes.
front setback. So how does that work?
Well, that's why we're asking for the variance, because
On the retaining wall only.
not on the structure.
Right, Jeff.
I know, but how are you going to get this structure built to zoning?
That's up to them and the building inspector to meet the zoning.
No, they'd have to come for a variance in front of us. So are they coming?
No, 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 no,
piecemeal?
no, no, no. What the request is for the variance on the retaining wall only, which it gives the understanding and the presumption that they're going to be able to build the house within the proper zoning setbacks and get a building permit. If not, then they would have to be back before the board for.
The design they're presenting us does not allow for those setbacks, as Jeff is pointing out.
You don't know what that dimension is.
No, that was just a typical house drawn.
Right,
You
it's a
know,
typical house.
My understanding is we'd have to make it meet.
Okay.
Zoning,
15
right, otherwise we'd be back before
Okay.
this board.
What is the wall made of?
Concrete block.
So there will be an 8-foot-high concrete block wall next to, do we know where the other houses, how close the other houses are to each side of this?
If you look, if you don't mind looking at this map right here, maybe it'll be
Okay,
easier
oh,
to
great,
see.
yeah,
There's a locus right here.
okay. Well, that shows the property, oh, so there's a
Yeah,
structure
there's
here
nothing
and
there.
there's nothing there,
Nothing.
okay.
And it looks like quite a distance.
Oh, so the road, oh, yeah, okay.
And that's not a structure, that's a house, that's just like a shed.
Okay.
A shed of some kind, the house is way over here.
If
Not close to another
you
house.
were here for one of the previous hearings, we had a wall situation that we requested more than 1 foot. Would that affect your design?
If it was what?
If the wall setback from the property line was more than 1 foot?
I think it would, then the septic system would not work. This was the closest this was the best he could do.
It doesn't say on here how big this lot is.
It's 6,000 square feet.
Well, legally, 5,000 square feet is considered a building wall, but we don't have to grant special variances for it. The grandfather lot is 5,000 square feet or more, but on the other hand, we're not required to grant special permits to make it buildable,
It's a variance.
or variances to make it
Oh,
buildable.
We base the variance request on criteria for variance. That's what was outlined in the engineer's letter.
Is it a hardship that this can't be buildable?
That's up to the board to decide. Okay, Jeff, anything else?
It's a really big wall.
Yes.
And a really small lot.
Alan?
You said that did you have a hearing with the Board of Health? Is that you had, or did you have a petition there?
My understanding has been approved, and if you want to, I can get that information. If you want to continue the hearing, I will get all that. Again, my engineer unfortunately had to leave he had a 9 o'clock hearing somewhere else.
Michelle's shaking her head.
Do you know when, do you know when that was approved?
I don't recall it being.
Well, let me ask this. I think he told me we're all set with board. That was my understanding, but I don't want to say that because I was not there.
Yeah. I don't recall it coming before the board. The abutters would have received a notice for a Board of Health hearing, do you recall?
I think that's a critical piece.
Yeah, I would request a continuance. I would like to make sure he's here for the next time.
Because it seems like this
So-
is awfully
We have a
distressing.
bunch-
Are you going to request it?
Yes, I'm going to request an
Okay.
a continuance, so I will get the immediate answers. I understand you have some critical questions. And
Okay.
I'd like to get those answers.
You want to go September?
When is your next-
Or, the next meeting is September 17th, or October 15th.
Your next meeting will be fine.
Bill, can we hear from the abutters while they're here? Okay.
Also, I want to read in a statement from zoning Bernier, again dated August 17, 2015, in regards to map U17, parcel 146. The applicant seeks a variance for a reduced setback of a structure at the above noted address, specifically a retaining wall in connection with a septic system design. To the best of my knowledge, this parcel has not received a determination that it is a legally undersized building lot. I am unable to provide any further information regarding this parcel. So, again, Roland has not made a decision based on the information as to whether it's a legal building lot to begin with.
Was there property on here before?
I will have to get back to that. Again,
Well, the question would be, was there
Yeah,
anything on there
the
prior?
abutting property.
Or if any of the abutting property was in common
I understand
ownership
the
at any
question,
given
yeah.
point.
We're told that supposedly is all set, but it's not been finalized yet.
If there was a question once before in front of us where there was a grandfathered size lot, and the question of whether or not a barn having been built on it constituted a dwelling or a structure, because it would not be a grandfathered lot if it had a barn on it and the barn had been torn down, then it no longer was a grandfathered lot and would have to fall under conforming rules and regulations. It's a convoluted law, but rules and regulations. If this has had any kind of real structure on it
My
before,
knowledge, there's been
then it is
nothing.
not going to be a legal lot.
To my knowledge, there's been nothing here, to my
Well,
knowledge.
There's more to it than that, but yes, work it out with,
Yes.
double check that and the, Board of Health approval. 1 minute would. Also, too, we have received a note from Carl Solom, dated August 20th, 2015, to Michelle. Hi, can you read this tonight, please? Thank you. Hi, I am Carl Solom, owner of parcel 148 on Washington Street that abuts parcel 146, where the proposed septic system being requested. I would like to go on record for opposing this request for several reasons. One, the retaining wall looks to be very close to my lot line, and any excavation there would devastate and kill my trees, shrubs, and greenery, causing irreversible hardship and financial damage. Two, the other two lots abutting 146 would suffer the same devastation. Three, new construction that requires a retaining wall for septic is subpar for Littleton standards. It should not be accepted as a practice. Thank you for listening. Carl Solom, 37 Dogwood. Okay. Abutters. Audience.
Shafia Chicarelli, 45 Washington Drive. Just to clarify the question of houses surrounding it, Mr. Solom lives on Dogwood, but that's quite close to the back of, his house is quite close to the back of this lot, so it may not be shown on your map. I don't know what the map shows, but my guess is that his house is probably at most 25 feet from that property line, maybe less. It's only a very rough guess, could be 15 feet. The one side of the property is owned by the town, the lot that is currently on the higher end. On the other side, there is a house that is a distance away. I don't know if those people are here or not, but if they're not, I'm not sure that they understand the repercussions of this and what it could mean for their property. I have a number of concerns about this. I'm I know that there are retaining walls that are necessary on non-conforming lots in that area. You know, I'm very aware of that, having needed to put in a septic system myself when I bought my property. I'm not aware of any septic systems, I haven't seen any anyway, you may know of some, but I'm not aware of any that are requiring retaining walls on 3 sides of the property, and certainly not retaining walls this high. So I'm concerned about safety issues, I'm concerned about the proximity of that retaining wall to the abutting lots. And also, I think it's important to note, this may not be relevant for your purposes, but just for your information, the plan shows that there will be a driveway. Elm Road is actually currently woods in this section. It is not a road, so there would need to be a road that would be built. And I don't know how they would allow for any sort of driveway on what's currently woods. You know, I know there is, so that I think is just another point just to be aware of in terms of what's being proposed. So I think that may be all that I have to say for now.
All right. It comes down to this. First of all, they don't have Board of Health approval yet, so we don't even know if this is going to change. Most likely, or may very well change, which means this is not appropriate. Second of all, the building commissioner, building inspector, zoning officer has indicated that he has not had enough information given to him to see if it's a legal buildable lot. And one of them is access. Do they have access in there, and what is constituted right of way? Lot size, budding, budding property and common ownership or whatever else. So without any of those things being resolved, I don't see how we can even continue with this hearing. So the gentleman here, the petitioner, has indicated that he wants a continuance to next month to resolve these issues and see if a modified application needs to come before us, or to withdraw this application until such time that the overall issues are resolved before it does get to us. Right?
Are there other butters that want to talk?
Well, we don't.
Yeah, because
I will get to that.
We may want to poll the board, because Jim's going to have substantial
Give me the-
money invested.
Yeah. Let me-
And if we're not going to grant this anyway, no how, then he might want to know that now.
All right. In regards to comments, and I will take comments from butters and from the audience, keep in mind, it is not valuable to discuss the merits of this wall and everything else at this point until we find out what is going to be approved by the Board of Health, and to whether it's even a legal buildable lot. I mean, if the building inspector determines it's not a legal buildable lot, this whole thing goes away. So keep that in mind. Yes, I will entertain and recognize people who want to speak in regards to this. Ma'am.
I'm Elizabeth Harris, and I am down on Forest Road. That section there is right behind my garage.
Yep.
There's another lots, and then there's the paper road, which is Elm Street. That end of it is paper. And you access it from Washington, the top of Washington. My concern is, I've been there since 1968. I know that several perk tests have been done over the years on that property up there, different locations around it. It has never passed perk. It is a hill straight down to me. There's lots of water, lots of water coming off of it. In the spring, it takes till June to dry out. Any disturbance of the trees and the land up there is going to just add more water to come down.
Yep.
Also, that area, my concern with these wall systems is you're seeing them, they're getting put up everywhere, and I understand they're being, existing houses have to have them. That's a necessity. But a new build should be, what happens when those systems fail? And they won't fail. They're 20, 25 years. What happens? How do you get a machine up in there to even fix it? without spillage everywhere.
Very valid points.
That's my concern. And, you know, it's gonna go somewhere, and if it's right on someone else's property, then what?
Mhm. Anybody else?
Yeah, my name's
Name?
Peter Croy. I live on Elm Road.
Okay.
I live on the other end of Elm Road, right off of Emerson. I own, first 360 feet up the street. I built the house 15 years ago, and a builder built the house across the street from me. And the builder built the house and got out of there and left a first-time homeowner totally in the dark. And I'm very happy that I was out there to help him get things together. They left him, the road wasn't paved. It was said they were gonna pave it, so the neighbor and I paid to pave it. And the road's actually been my baby for the last 15 years. It's been my money. The town doesn't plow it. And my first concern is, they're gonna run machines up my side of the driveway, or it's a paper road, but the town won't do anything on it. So I'm kind of always caught in limbo on this thing. In the meantime, I put a drain in it, which the builder across the street told the town he was gonna do, never did it. He promised this. I put a curb on the side, which I did, and with the neighbor paid for half of it. Now, you're looking at that, that's gonna hook up to Washington Street. I'd love you to go up and take a look at it, the situation they're talking about.
We have.
Well, if it comes back before us,
Okay.
in whatever form,
Some of us have.
yeah.
I've done excavation for over 25 years, and I'm not gonna speak for Jim Griffey, but I've never seen him put a 3-wall, because we're basically making a bathtub out of that septic system. And like she said, I have no idea how you fix a septic system.
Yeah.
If you don't have one area with at least a breakout of a 3-to-1, that system is gonna fail. Because sooner or later, the effluent, it's gotta go somewhere. If you've got 3 walls, it's not
You know,
gonna.
all of these comments from the neighbors and the butters and everybody else should definitely be passed on to the Board of Health and have the Board of Health meeting.
Okay.
I mean, you get notification like other meetings and everything else, and make sure they understand that before, they approve. I mean, we've been stuck with some petitions that's coming before us for variance, once the Board of Health has already approved them. You know, it's like, no.
I'm curious, is this
Yeah.
even an issue if it's not signed off by the Board of Health?
That's why we're going to continue it. We're not going to go forward with a hearing on this tonight.
I-
And that's what I've said, is that, first of all, the building inspector has not declared it's a buildable lot, number one.
Yeah.
If it's not a buildable lot, this whole thing goes away. Second of all, if it is a buildable lot, then they gotta come up with a system or a design, and they gotta go to a Board of Health and get signed off. Then, if those two things are met, then it will come back to us in whatever form.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
The paper road, people have an absolute right, it's been shown in court over and over again, to use a paper road to get into the property. We can't, that's not before us, we can't judge that. The septic system design is not before us, we can't judge that, we can't even pass opinions. I understand, I would have those concerns also. We can't even pass opinions on that. But I very much want the petitioner to know, there's no way I would grant on a new construction how tall? 8 foot? An 8-foot retaining wall, 1 foot off the property. If you want to save your money for going forward with other boards, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, as a voting member of this board, no way, no how on new construction. I'm just not going to do it. I can only say what I would do, but on an existing property needing a septic replacement, I will bend over backwards to help people. But on new construction, with not an existing property on there, it just isn't going to happen, Jim. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience? Yes. Anything in regards to?
Just identify yourself.
Anthony Blanco, I live on 38 Dahlia Drive. I share many of the same concerns with the abutters, but I'll limit them to specifically to the retaining wall. But as a family, we hope to have children, and if someone buys this house that also has children that my children will be playing with, I also don't want an 8-foot retaining wall that could potentially cause serious harm somewhere to where it fall.
Okay.
Especially that close to the property line.
Yep.
So, thank you.
All right, let's continuation, Shelley, let's,
Did you pull the
We-
board for Jim's sake?
for what?
For Jim's sake?
What-
for the-
He requested a continuance. We don't have enough information to even make a decision, so we're going to go for a continuance.
Bill, I'd like to, I would never vote for an 8-foot-high wall, never.
But until we get it from the Board of Health and everybody else, we don't know if that's going to be an 8-foot high wall.
Okay, well, as shown.
What I'm saying, what we have in front of us is invalid, all the other.
That's fine, that's fine. But I want to, I understand where Cheryl's going. She's just saying maybe this isn't, a viable.
Maybe he doesn't want to spend thousands of dollars going down this road.
Shelley, can we still have the 7:45? I mean, we can even schedule 2 hearings for the same time period. Okay. All right, can I have a motion for continue this case to
Before you
September-
do, one
Yeah.
comment. I wouldn't mind seeing the adjacent houses on this plan so you can see
Location
how
of them?
close.
Is
Yeah,
that-
because one comment was one was
Yeah.
maybe 15 feet.
So location of adjacent houses.
Adjacent houses.
Okay.
Jim, you have to have 4 out of 5 people on this.
Okay, can I have a motion for continuous to September 17, 2015 at 7:45 PM?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor? Aye. Jeff, Ellen?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, okay.
definitely.
And Patrick? Okay, thank you. Sometimes my hearing is off, I don't get everything. Okay. You understand the concerns and,
Yes, I heard them loud and clear.
okay.
Jeff and I are permanent, the 3 of us are permanent members. You're going to get our votes no matter what,
Unless you don't show up.
unless we don't show up. You can't mug me on my way here, though.
Votes for-
You gotta vote too.
He's going to have to take in effect our votes no matter what.
Oh,
I would save you a lot of money if I could.
okay, let's go back to
Thank you for coming.
all right.
Okay.
Okay, at 9:55, I'm going to entertain a request to reopen the hearing for case 858A, 80 King Street.
Move to reopen the hearing.
Reopen the hearing. Can you give me a second, please?
Second.
Okay.
I second.
Wait a minute. Okay. Bill, Jeff, Cheryl, Mark, and Rod are the voting members. So I need a reopen from Jeff, Cheryl, Mark, or
You're right
Rod.
home, Patrick.
Okay.
Motion.
We reopen the hearing.
Rod, okay.
Second that?
Okay.
You want to order a pizza?
Took today and tomorrow off.
Can't go 3 hours without eating.
Mm. I'm going to ask the
Okay.
question again.
Yes.
Why can't we do a special permit and do a variance on the recital
We can.
function?
We can.
Okay,
And the recital function only?
yeah.
So we're giving him permission to do everything, everything else under special permit, and just the recital under variance.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the only thing in question.
So if the next owner wanted to do recitals, they could do
They
that.
would, by right,
Yeah,
have
they
to,
would
will
have by
not
right.
need to
If they
come
wanted
back.
a recital for a heavy metal rock band.
Well, I mean, we
No,
could.
no,
we-
it will happen. I'm just saying, someone will interpret the rules, you know. They may want to sell, it
Yeah, but
may be a
then-
new
then-
music
then
company
they'd
that
be
sells all
subject to-
electric.
Then they'd be subject to the same,
Yeah.
the noise things that we've talked about last
Exactly, yeah.
meeting.
Even under a variance.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's not big enough to draw that kind of crowd.
Yeah,
Well,
I know,
but
but
even
you
under
know.
a variance, it would be subject to noise
Yeah.
regulations,
Yeah.
et cetera. You know, so it couldn't be that much of a nuisance.
Okay,
I'm
so-
just worried about it becoming retail other than
Well, yeah, that's my.
a
That's why I
gentlemanly
restrict-
business such as they're
That's why I
proposing.
Boy,
restrict
please,
the
it's getting
variance.
late, let's see if we can get through this. Mr. Strathmeyer, in your
Yes.
right open, and I'm wanting to go by this.
I've already proposed.
Okay, A is you're requesting for A, sell and repair musical instruments.
Yes, sir.
And B, provide soundproof studio space for private musical lessons and instructions.
Yes.
And we're taking that as being in regards to the instruments that you sell at your store.
Yes, right.
Okay, and so I think that the consensus of the board at this point is that we can deal with that as a special permit. And that the C point, recital room for musical performers and musical room performances and recitals, that we would deal with that as a variance. Is that agreeable?
With us, if necessary, if you need the advice of town council on that third point, we could continue that question until the next meeting without undue hardship on us or the sellers, if need be. Or if you're willing to
Want to do that?
I would be comfortable with that.
Okay, so we're just going to do A and B now?
Bill, what if he says that we shouldn't be doing a special?
And it could be that he'll agree that that could be a special permit.
Yeah, you might agree that it just already fits under the special permit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Then
so
you
we
wouldn't
are,
have to
so
come
we are dealing with, so we're still gonna have the continuation to September 17th for
solely
point
for
C.
the question of the recital, or the meeting
Yes.
room recital.
Now, if we have to write the special, approval for the special permit, can we put recital hall in there as well? And then we just cover it as a variance later? Otherwise,
The decision would be written specifically for the other two conditions.
okay, because then we have
And
the
then
issue
we'll hold
of,
the other one off and write a separate decision for the third.
that can be a special permit also.
Or we could write it,
potentially.
we could write it vaguely, and the town council can decide whether or not it fits under the special permit already.
No, we cannot write it vaguely and have it approved by town council later, because once it's written and filed at
No,
this
it wasn't-
hearing, it cannot be.
I wasn't saying approved by town council later, I just wanted him to rule on the definition.
Well, if that could be added as either a special permit or a variance later, fine.
All right, let's deal with
Because we've already
points,
done the
Okay.
special
Fine.
permit.
points A and B.
We'll get there either way.
A, sell and repair. Special permit. Okay, and B. Musical lessons. And instruction. And as accessory. To sell and repair, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion on those 2 points?
I mean, something as an extension to pre-existing retail business or something like that.
Can we use the language that is in the he has a sort of legal, he has the motion sort of written down here in the, on the agenda. Can we read that out as a motion?
Who?
The petitioner. Can I take a shot at it?
Where are you?
I'm on the agenda, and the way this is written, it's
okay.
referring to, it's written in a way that we could use
Yeah.
as the motion. I move that we grant the petitioner a request for a special permit pursuant to section 173-10B1, change, extension, or alteration of a non-conforming use and structure for the purpose of extending the pre-existing non-conforming use of the property, mixed-use residential retail, for purposes of using the property, a retail business that will, A, sell and repair musical instruments, and B, provide soundproof studio space for private musical lessons and instructions.
I'll second that motion.
At 80 King Street.
At 80 King Street.
Okay, any conditions? Or you want to leave it at that?
We didn't discuss any. I mean, it'll be.
But do you feel, or the board feel that that's appropriate and adequate at this point?
Yeah, they're going to have a site plan,
Yeah,
correct?
site plan review.
Yeah, so that'll cover parking.
And we don't have to worry about parking.
No,
Yeah.
but I always like to know there's.
Yeah,
an
site plan
adequate-
review is
that'll
for
be covered.
structures and not for the use, yeah,
Parking,
okay?
et cetera.
All right, then a second.
I seconded already.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as stated, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and then I'd like to move that we continue the hearing to the 17th, September 17th at 7:45 to determine the use of the recital room for musical performances as either a variance or a special permit,
And the reason for continuance?
to allow town council to determine, make a decision as to whether it should be a variance or a special permit.
Or allow town council for a legal opinion,
Right.
okay?
Want a second? Oh, I second it.
Rod? Do I have a second?
Yes.
Alan?
I'm not voting on this one, am I?
Jeff seconded.
I
No.
said
Oh,
it.
Jeff.
Second, yeah.
All right. Do I have a, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. Continue. Okay, I think we gained a lot of ground.
Thank you all.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
See you again in September.
There's a song out
Yeah,
there.
somebody wrote a song about that.
Right.
No, seriously, thank you all.
Okay.
It's been a late night, and I appreciate your service to the town.
Maybe you can dedicate the recital hall to Phil Weather.
That is
Oh,
not a...
he was such a gem to this town.
Yeah. So I started buying flowers from him like, something like 43 years ago.
But he gave a lot back to the town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not just as a not just as a retail owner.
Yeah, that is a nice
He's an
guy.
active,
Yeah.
involved member of the
We
community.
can see that from the whole family.
Family is
We've
just so
come to know the
It's-
family.
it's a
through
lovely
this process,
family.
and
Lovely family.
It really is.
We're
All right.
sorry to see them go. We're happy to have you.
And we're happy to have them as neighbors, so they're staying in town.
Are they? Okay.
All righty, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.
Nothing further? Motion to adjourn?
No.
No.
We have that other.
We have that, we have the retaining wall.
I was trying to get.
Yeah, that, right, and
The 2-foot. They changed it to 2-foot.
Okay, where are we?
I wanted to.
and wasn't there a third one too? that we had to do?
Yeah.
They wanted.
Westchester, we got, phone, okay.
You have
we
an
have-
idea the stairs.
Okay.
Yeah, the stairs.
We got to decide on all 4.
Nine West, no, we only have
Yeah,
two.
No, we have 3.
You're creating an issue.
9 West,
But
Westchester.
we've got to get it. Yeah.
Okay, 9 Westchester, the plot plan. For the
You're right, I
stairs.
was wrong.
Keep that on tape, please. All right, for the steps of the deck on the side, this is a,
Garden sequence. Sorry.
let's get through this tonight. This is for a variance, for a setback reduction of 15 feet on the side to 13.2 feet. Or let's get, make it a little.
Which case are you on, dear? 9 Westchester?
That's the side.
The steps.
Stairs.
Oh, I'm not on that one, I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
So they want to go to 13.2.
Okay, they did,
So let's-
I didn't hear the exact number, but they want to essentially go back to what it was.
No,
They
no,
were
it's
a bit
further,
upstairs,
it's a
yeah.
further foot from what it was. I
Because it was
think.
originally 13.2 before they built the
No,
new
they want to
stairs
go to
there.
13.2. It's 18.2 for the house. They're putting roughly a 6-foot bump out,
Yeah.
roof covered step.
I think they wanted to go to-
13.2.
Right,
I think they wanted to go to 12.2.
but I think the original one before they rebuilt the stairs was 13.2.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Just 12.2.
So they're essentially going back to where they were.
And we should give them a little bit of leeway in there.
Yeah.
So it's up to the board as to how much of a leeway.
Yeah. Who are the voting people on this?
Okay, myself, Jeff, Alan, Rod, and Mark.
I'd suggest 12 feet.
12 feet, I would agree with that.
another couple inches.
Not to exceed 12 feet, or not to be under 12 feet.
Not to be closer than
Mhm.
12 feet, 0 inches. Okay.
It is weird they put the house so far down.
Per, well, these drawings, I mean, the architect, landscape architect admitted that she doctored a signed plot plan by a professional land surveyor. A little incriminating, but, yeah, whoops, no date. Okay, motion, please?
Motion to grant the, this is variance or
Variance.
special? Variance for the extension of the stairway, such that the setback would not exceed 12.
Shall not be closer to the property line than 12 feet, 0 inches.
Maybe stairway and associated decking.
Yeah,
Closer than-
yeah, that's
okay.
what I meant.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting how they're Then we'll
as
do that.
per the plans and diagrams submitted to the board. Thank you. Second?
Second. So he can second it.
I'll second it, yeah.
Rod? No,
No,
Mark.
Mark.
Right. All in favor?
Aye. Who are the votings on that?
Bill, Jeff, Alan, Rod, and Mark.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have 363 King Street, which is Bill, Jeff, Cheryl, Patrick, and Alan. And this is for this swimming pool.
I don't either, but I can-
Okay, this is for the swimming pool, for the pool house, 10 by 16, and for the retaining wall that's proposed at 1 foot from the property line.
They
Comments?
changed it to 2 feet, didn't they?
Or they agreed to.
They agree, but that, yeah, so petition was for 1 foot. I'm asking for the decision. You can word it into the decision. Who wants to make a?
Can we make a comment first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
just, I was talking before about, I don't know, 2 feet to me doesn't buy you anything. I'm not saying we should move it to 3, I'm saying just give them 1. Go back to their original one. That would be I'm not a voting member, but it seems to me it's just jumping through hoops. 2 feet doesn't give you anything that 1 foot doesn't. If you're gonna say, oh, we won't vote unless they increase it, then I'd say, okay, I'm gonna make it, then you need to make it 3 feet to make it real.
I
2
don't-
feet,
I-
it just makes them jumps through
I
hoops for no particularly good reason.
1 foot, you can't even walk around. 2 feet, you can walk around. I'd
There's a-
like 3 feet.
There's a fence down the middle of it.
No,
It won't be in the
there's-
middle, it'll be on the.
Fence is
on the
against
pro-
the
it's-
wall.
The fence is like this big.
Well,
But it's
And it's
on.
on the
Of-
wall.
Of all the people in this room, Mark, you could go through that
that's what I
space.
said. You can't walk rubbing up against it. I guess my point
I-
is just go to the original one.
I
1
want-
foot. That's just my recommendation, but I'm not a voting member.
1 foot is this, 2 feet is this. I can walk down 2 feet, cut back trees.
Fence there up against the wall.
No, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I can cut down
Is the
trees that are
fence
going
Right
on
up.
right there, that's 24.
Right,
And they're putting a fence right here.
But is the
And
Now,
fence,
I
now
can-
you only have,
yeah, but I can walk along and cut down trees that are
You have
growing
a
into the
vertical
fence.
wall here.
And I
Oh,
can
no, I'm sorry,
maintain,
it's on the other side.
I
so
can
the fence
maintain
is on
greenery.
the
abutters side of that?
No, I'm sorry, you're right, it's on the wall.
on
It's
the
right
other
up
wall,
against
yeah.
the wall.
the walls
On the
here,
abutters
the
side?
fence
If
is-
this is 2 feet, there's the wall, Bill's right.
No, walls here.
Wall's there, there's the fence. All right, I can walk along this, I can cut down trees that are growing up into the fence, and, because, I'm sorry, landscaping trees are gonna grow right up into that
So the
fence, bend
fence
it
is
over.
on, the fence is on the abutter side of the wall.
Yes.
Yes.
It has to be used on the low
And-
point.
That stops people from coming in.
It's a swimming
Keeps
pool.
kids from
That's
climbing
what I
the
need
wall.
to
The thing is, a fence could be right on the property line.
Yes.
Well, the other thing is, they just need to dig deep, design a fence at the top of the wall, so they don't need a fence at the bottom of the
But
wall.
they-
Roland's requiring that, but
Well, no, Rollins not requiring that. That is their choice because they want to use the fence at the bottom to keep kids from climbing the wall
Yeah, right,
first of
but
all and then getting
it's
into
like
it.
people are climbing into the windows of
But-
your house. It's 10 feet tall.
Okay, at this
No,
point,
no, people-
this point, we cannot
people
redesign
would-
the fence for them. We have to just make a decision
But I'm saying they
on
could
the
put a
wall.
fence at the top, they could put
They have the
theoretically a fence at the top of the wall that would satisfy the pool access.
Let's
But
back
they-
up, because, you know,
No,
we're
let's
supposed to be
not. Let's
doing
just
this
vote on it.
by needs. And it's just,
The
how much
proposal
need is a
for-
pool?
Wait a minute, the proposal is for a retaining wall, 1 foot off the property line. They agreed
To do it 2
they would
feet.
go 2 feet off the property line.
I can live with
So
2 feet.
so
I can't
that
live
is,
with 1.
never mind the fence situation. Let's go with the
Yeah.
retaining wall. Do we want to make it 2 feet?
I move.
I'll leave it at 1.
They went out of here thinking it was 2 feet, so let's do that, let's get it voted on. I move that we allow a variance
Yep.
pursuant to section 173-31 intensity of use schedule to allow for a proposed stone retaining wall and pool shed as part of a landscape renovation accessibility, just proposed stone retaining pool shed to be not less than 2 feet off the property line as shown in the drawing submitted to the board.
Well, the barn,
Dated, revision dated 7/17/15.
it's
Okay.
not as shown.
It's not as shown, but as generally shown.
Generally, yes,
Yeah.
okay. Second?
Second.
And we can't dictate where the fence goes, that's really up to them.
We can't.
Yeah.
And I would love it to be 3 feet, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time not letting them have their pool.
Cheryl, it would be different if there were people on the other side of it. I wouldn't vote for it. But there's wetlands.
On one
On the
corner.
back, but not the right side.
On the right side, there's a 50-foot buffer goes with, way up the side of the wall. So they won't be able to build in.
And I would think the fence should go down the property line, so there's a 2-foot walkway, essentially.
No, they said they're gonna put the fence on the bottom right at the wall.
Yeah, and to me, that makes
Wall.
no sense, because now the fence becomes a stepping stone to get up
Oh,
on the
no,
wall. You can
because the
stand up
fence,
on top of
fence
the
is
fence.
It's supposed to be a
designed
foolproof
such-
fence.
The pool fencing, and that's what this is, that is designed so you cannot climb up. Well, 5-year-olds and younger cannot go up.
I don't understand why a fence is needed on the outside of the retaining wall to go around the pool. That makes no sense
Because
to
the
me.
retaining wall, the kind of retaining wall, they don't want to put a straight retaining wall.
Yeah.
They want to put an antique granite retaining wall.
Yeah.
They want to be fancy, and so that kind of retaining wall
I understand
has an
that.
angle and is a climbing hazard.
I understand that, but the fence then is to
Right.
try to keep people away from the wall, not at the pool.
Right.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made to grant a variance for the wall not to be closer than 2 feet from the property line. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Patrick? You're awful silent. Do I hear an aye? Yeah. Okay. And I heard everybody else. Okay. Okay.
Bill, a little business. Who's doing what
That's it.
decisions? I'll do the easy one, the steps.
I'll do the music board because it's already written.
You what?
The music board.
Go ahead.
I can do that one.
Cheryl, will you get it to me on time?
How soon's on time?
2 weeks?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, Bill, will you do the,
If I can't, I'll get someone to do it.
will you do the retaining wall?
Yes.
Okay.
Use Bill's template.
It's true. The only thing we need, you need
I
is
said
the.
use your templates.
is
They're
the- oh,
practically done with the template. You just have to insert a couple things.
Yeah. Okay, now are we?
Yes, now we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have my book back?
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor?
2011, so.
Aye.
Aye.